Hi and good morning and welcome to the You've Graduated What's Next webinar. I'm Pauline and I'm the Chief Exec of CXK, and we're the organisation that manages the National Career Service across the South East. And I'm really pleased to say that today we're running this event in partnership with AGCAS to support you, the graduates, in looking at tools and information that you might need to move forwards to ignite your graduate careers. Over the course of the morning, we've got loads planned for you. You'll be hearing from the National Career Service, Deloitte, Aviva, Kent Police, the Rosalind Franklin Laboratory, and the London Metropolitan University. And alongside that, we've also got some graduates that are going to be sharing their story of how they moved on into the careers that they're working in. So sit back, relax, get your questions ready, enjoy the morning, and I'm going to hand over to Mark Linton, who's president of AGCAS, who will be chairing the event this morning. So have a great morning, and over to you, Mark.
Thanks, Pauline. Thanks for the introduction. It's great to see so many of you online joining us today. As Pauline says, my name is Mark Linton. I'm Director of the Career Service at Newcastle University, and I'm also President of AGCAS, which is the Association of Graduate Careers Advisory Services. We're delighted to be co-hosting this event with the National Career Service today, and I hope you're going to find it interesting, enjoyable. Most importantly, I hope it's going to help you to identify sources of help and support that are available to you to help you get into the kind of job or course or start your business, whatever it is you're interested in. So, as Pauline said, we're going to hear from a number of different speakers this morning. And I suppose my message in introducing is very simple. If you're looking for help, obviously you'll hear about the support from the National Career Service, but also as graduates, you're able to use your university career service. And this year it's easier than ever because we're all offering online support. So you better get in touch with your career service, and you'll hear more about that during the day. So I think that's enough by way of introduction. Stephen, you're our first speaker. Thank you so much for joining us. Stephen's from the National Career Service, and he's going to give us a kind of talk about to start in your career using your transferable skills, things that you need to know. Stephen, over to you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mark, and welcome to everybody. My name's Steve, as has already been highlighted, and I work for National Career Service, and I've been in careers guidance for about 20 odd years now. I've got quite a bit of experience behind me, and what we're looking at is looking at Project U. That's the title of the session today. I will go off camera in just a moment and then share my screen so you can all see the presentation and talk through the slides. But just so you're aware, I won't have a question and answer session at the end of my sessions, as other ones will be. But what I would say is if you have got any questions, please do pop them in the Q&A section on here. So there's a little question mark at the top where you can actually type in your questions if you've got any as we go along, and then once I've finished presenting, I will then move on to the Q&A and reply to those in that Q&A box. So without further ado, I'm going to, like I said, pop myself off camera and bring my presentation up so you can see that. Hopefully you can see that. I don't know whether that's presenting as it should do. But as you can see here, it highlights here, if you don't build your dream, someone else will. So if you imagine somebody's building a property, for example, it's not just them that's involved in building the property, they're going to involve lots of other people, but ultimately the end result lies with them, so to speak. So it's the same for yourselves. You're the one who's going to be steering your future career path, but there are people out there who can help you. So the next slide highlights that point. There's Project U. So the things that kind of make up Project U are the transferable skills or career options that are out there, and the career management skills as well. So they include things like the labour market, and I will go into the labour market information in a bit more detail, but you've also got social media and continual professional development, or CPD for short, CV writing, interview skills techniques, and resilience. What I'm going to start off with though is looking at the transferable skills and the career options, and I thought I'd give you a quick introduction to the National Career Service website. So that's what it looks like. And here you can see there's an Explore Careers page, there's a Skills Assessment page, there's a Find a Course page as well. I'm showing you obviously the Explore Careers option there. But if you're unsure about what you want to do moving forward, the Skills Assessment can be quite useful. There's a couple of them. One's a quickfire quiz that tries to identify potentially suitable careers based on your preferences, and then there's a longer assessment as well that tries to be a bit more thorough about that. But ultimately, it all comes back to this page where it will highlight different career options within the 25 career areas or job categories highlighted below the search bar here. And you can see there's admin, animal care, beauty and wellbeing, and so on and so forth. So behind all of those 25 different career areas, you'll find over 800 careers. And for each job, you'll get a job profile. So I'm going to give this one as a quick example. This is purchasing manager, and they're all set out exactly the same. So you've got the average salary for starting, and then higher end, what the typical hours would be, when you could work those hours, and it does highlight occasional evenings, for example. But then you've got all these other headings down here. So how to become, what it takes, what you'll do, career path, and current opportunities. If you click on the plus, it will then expand the information, and what you'll often find, for example, with the how to become, is there's usually more than one route into it. So that's useful to know, especially if the original path that you're planning to go on doesn't look like it's a viable option for whatever reason. There's quite often another route that you can potentially take to still achieve your goal. So that's positive. The what you'll do, hopefully you already know that, but if it's a new career that you're looking at, it'll be interesting to find out what you'd actually be doing. But this is the one which I want to draw your attention to, and it's the what it takes, and that's the skills. So I'm going to give it as a very quick example, but you might be thinking, if you were, say, a history graduate, what would I do with my future career path? And there's obvious kind of careers like, say, archaeology, history teacher, etc. But there's lots of other skills that are what we term transferable, and then could link in with other roles. So sticking with the purchase manager or the procurement manager, if you were to click on the what it takes, it provides a list of the skills that are required. So they're all listed down the right hand side on the screen, and on the left hand side are a list of skills that a history graduate would have, just as an example. And as you can see from the arrows, they're pointing from, say, autonomy to the ability to use your initiative, being creative to being flexible and open to change, and so on and so forth. But you can start to see how these transferable skills could really nicely link in with this job role. So that's a key message, is don't necessarily think of yourself as a, say, career. Like I've spoken, say, as an example, to teachers here thinking about a career change, and have said, well, teaching is all I can do. And you think, well, actually, teacher's just a job title. Behind that is a lot of skills and qualities that you're making use of, like the communication, the teamwork, the ability to inspire people and lead and motivate, and so on and so forth. And that's what we call transferable skills. And that nicely leads on to this slide, where you're looking at those transferable skills as being like building blocks. So we've got a few examples of transferable skills here, like problem solving, critical thinking, IT, technical, adaptability, leadership, analytical, creativity, etc. And we've got it as building blocks or Lego bricks, because at the end of the day, what do you do with Lego bricks? Well, you make them into lots of different things, but you're using maybe the same Lego bricks, but to make lots of different things, be it a boat, a train, or a car. So I guess the key question here is, what will you do with your building blocks, and where will they take you? But that's the key thing, is view your transferable skills as exactly that. They're building blocks that can transfer off into lots of different career areas. I will give it as a very quick example. My former college tutor, she used to be a nurse, and she decided she'd had enough of that and decided upon a career change. So she went off into social work. So she used the transferable skills from nursing to move over into social work. And then after she'd finished with her career in social work and felt she'd got the most out of that, she decided it was again time for a change, and she used those transferable skills from both the nursing and the social work, and then moved on into teaching at a college. So I hope that message is getting across with that example, that your transferable skills can be utilised in lots of different ways, but it's up to you as to which direction you're going to take. Obviously, we can help with that. Aside from the transferable skills, we also did talk about the idea of the career management skills, and I'm not going to go into detail on every single one of those elements, but I thought we'd zone in on labour market information. So, for example, do you know who the top 100 graduate employers were back in 2021? Funnily enough, a few of them are going to be with us here today, like the NHS, Deloitte, etc. And as you can see from this little slide here, there's the full list. But it gives you an idea of the employers that are potentially open to you, and they're very popular with graduates, and they regard the graduates well. Another thing to think about, though, is keeping on top of the news, and I think the next slide kind of highlights that. So if I show you that one, it's analysis of graduate vacancies in 2021 by industry or business sector, as it highlights at the top, and it's taken from the graduate market in 2021. And what you'll notice is there's a shift with the number of vacancies advertised according to the year, and some have gone down a bit, some have gone up a bit, but you'll notice, just as a quick example, oil and energy has gone down according to these statistics by 39.2%. And you might be thinking, oh, that's a bit of a drop, what happened there? Well, if you're following the news, we know there's been a bit of a crisis when it comes to energy prices, and energy firms have subsequently struggled and had to ask for support from the government. But what I would say is that's in the here and now, so it might be a bit more difficult to find vacancies in that industry at the moment, but things are always constantly changing. So again, I think if you have a little look at the charity sector, it says here that it's gone up by 24.1%. So you look at that and you think, well, back in the full swing of the COVID pandemic, a lot of charities were struggling because they relied on donations, and those donations generating money for the charities, and they found that obviously a difficulty because nobody was able to go out and about and do their shopping, etc., in the charity shops. So obviously that's all changed again because of people getting the jabs and all the rest of it, but at least it gives you an idea as to how fluid the market can be, and I think that brings home the important point of resilience. So that's one of those career management skills that we're talking about or mentioned right at the start that's going to be important moving forward, is to be resilient. And okay, things will chop and change, but like I say, you can ride different storms and come out the other side in a positive way, and along the way learn even more new skills. So just as an example, we've had to work from home quite a bit, and as a result we've learned a lot more skills when it comes to presenting and using Teams technology, Zoom and things like that. So there's always positives to be gained from these experiences. Another thing to bear in mind is, moving on to how you market yourself, is the kind of the CV side of things. And I think this one's a really important one because a lot of people don't necessarily do themselves justice with regards to their CV. So what I've highlighted here is a quick 5-point plan to help you make your CV unique to you. So what you want to avoid is the generic, I'm an honest, reliable, hardworking individual and all that jazz, because a lot of employers do see that. But equally, you can use this little 5-point plan not only to help you with the CV side of things, but you could use it to build your profile, say on social media, like say LinkedIn. But I think it's important from an employee's point of view to get to the point. So they want to know, well, what experience have you got? And that's why I put 2 different options here. You've got the job or the transferable skill. So my job is careers advisor. So if I was looking for another careers advisor role, I would start off with that. But equally, if I was thinking of a change of career, like say going into counselling or social work or something else, I might be thinking, well, I need to more zone in on the transferable skill. And with those jobs, a core transferable skill would be customer service, for example. So I might start off with customer service professional with however many years of experience. And that leads into the next bit, is how many years or months of experience have you had, and what type of experience does that include? Another thing that's useful to highlight is your core qualification in relation to the actual job role you're going for. So a lot of you will be highlighting your degree as your core qualification. But there might be other certificates and qualifications, etc., that could be added to that to really bring it to life even further. And I always think it's worth highlighting at least 2 core skills qualities that you know the employer is going to be really interested in. And if you can think of a unique selling point or an achievement, add that in too. By unique selling point, I'm thinking about things like, just for example, being first aid trained, being able to speak different languages, having supervisory experience, things like that. Not everybody is first aid trained, not everybody can speak different languages, and not everybody's had, say, supervisory leadership experience. So it's a little something different that you can bring to the table. Equally, it could be an achievement. And then last but not least, you're looking at the reason for applying. So how does this work? Well, the next slide highlights how that works, and this is based on a gentleman that I spoke to recently, and he worked in banking as a business banking relationship manager. He had 7 years of experience and he worked at Barclays and NatWest. We noted down his core qualification was a degree in accounting. He zoned in on, he's found it's a bit difficult actually trying to zone in on just 2 skills qualities, but the 2 that he eventually settled upon were the credit analysis and negotiation skills. And then for him, he felt his unique selling point was his effectiveness at being good at networking and generating additional business. And then his main reason for actually applying for different roles was the need to be closer to family and earn a bit more money. But obviously you don't want to necessarily put that to an employer because it's not necessarily that complimentary, or the only reason I'm applying to you is because I need a bit of money or whatever. You want to be a bit more dynamic and positive about that. So we termed it as looking for a new challenge. But what you do in this instance is you basically lose those 5 headings and expand on the information, and then below you've got your little profile. So I hope that sort of makes sense with that. But again, you could go with, if he was thinking actually I want to get away from, say, the business and banking relationship manager, he could have started off with customer service professional, because he was dealing with customers daily, with 7 years of experience within the banking industry. But equally, he had experience in other areas where he was interacting with people as well, so he could have put 10 years of experience within banking, etc. So there's ways of playing around with this information, but it does make a difference when it comes to how you're marketing yourself and grabbing the employee's interest. I think that's really important, especially with the CV, because a lot of employers spend 8-9 seconds doing an initial sift, and a lot of it is have a quick look at that profile, which I liken to the blurb on the back of a book or a DVD, and for the employer it's the same sort of kind of situation, and they would look at that and they'd either think, yeah, this sounds promising, I'll read it properly later, or no, this doesn't, and they'll put it in the no pile. So that's something to bear in mind when it comes to marketing yourself effectively, either on LinkedIn with your profile or your profile on your CV. But thinking about your CV and your experience as a graduate, you might find my next slide a bit confusing. because I'm talking about work history. You might be thinking, well, being a cleaner, that I don't need a degree to do that. Why is Steve showing me this? Well, I was thinking about it, and as a former undergraduate myself, I did quite a range of different jobs. I did telesales, leaflet dropping, cleaning, etc. And I suspect a lot of you that were undergraduates were doing a similar sort of range of jobs, be it retail, hospitality, cleaning, etc. Question is, do you include that on your CV or not? Well, I think experience is valuable, so I would say yes, it potentially should go on your CV, especially if you feel you've achieved things. And I wanted to show this as an example because this is based on a lady that I did see who worked for initial cleaning services, and she didn't really put too much detail about her work. And I asked her why, and her view was, well, everybody knows what a cleaner does, what's the point? But as I highlighted to her, there's different types of cleaner, and at this juncture I wouldn't know what sort of cleaner she was. Was she domestic? Was she office cleaner, industrial cleaner, so on and so forth? So she started telling me what she did, and I put down her responsibilities. But as she was talking, it became clear she'd achieved quite a lot along the way. So, for example, she got given key holder responsibilities. She'd complete some training in COSH, which is health and safety, buffing machine training as well. She also got promoted, and she always did the work within the tight deadlines because she had a few hours in the morning and a few hours in the evening to get the work done. And you sort of think, well, this starts to say something about you as an individual. So if you take given key holder responsibilities, what does that say about you? Well, to me, I wouldn't be giving my keys to somebody who's always late. I wouldn't be giving my keys to somebody who's unreliable, and I certainly wouldn't be giving my keys to somebody who I didn't trust. So straight away, by just having that little example there, giving key holder responsibilities tells me you are reliable, that you're punctual, and that you're a trustworthy individual. So that is evidence that you've got certain skills and qualities. So if you think about your CV as proving that you've got certain skills and qualities, and the achievements can be a great way of proving that point, I think that's a really positive way of moving forward. And as you can see, with a relatively straightforward job like cleaning, you can still achieve quite a lot. And a lady who saw that said, you know what, that's the first time I felt proud to be a cleaner. So you sort of think on a positive note, it boosted her confidence. And thinking about your jobs in terms of achievements will help boost your confidence and give you examples that provide some clarity as to the skills that you've got. I'm obviously conscious of time, and hence I am rattling through this quite quickly. So I will pretty much end on this slide here, which are other points to consider. And that's the interview skills side of things. One of the key things I would say there, as with the CV, is always provide examples of your ability to do different things, whether it's customer service, teamwork, use of initiative, and more. And we will send out a resource pack to help you kind of get a bit more of a heads up on that. But another thing that I think is important to think about when it comes to interview skills is, why does the employer ask the question? So there's always a reason. So just for example, you might randomly get asked, if you're an animal, what sort of animal would you be and why? And you might be thinking, oh, what's that got to do with the job I'm actually going for here? It just seems completely out of the blue, and it could flummox you. But that's part of the reason why the employer is asking it, is to see whether you can think on your feet. So if you know you might get asked what they would call think on your feet random questions, then be prepared for that. And one simple way, just as an example of preparing for that, is actually think about, okay, if I'm going to answer that question, rather than talk about the animal first, I'll talk about the why first. Well, who am I? What am I about? Oh, I'm a hardworking individual, great team worker. Provide some examples and talk about that. Well organised, and then you can link that in with an animal. So by talking about yourself first. You're answering the question, but you're also giving yourself a bit of time to think about an animal that might link in with the skill set that you're sharing with the employer. Aside from interviews, you've also got the CPD, or Continual Professional Development, and we will be sending you a list of free courses that are potentially available, but also on the National Careers Service website, under the courses side of things, there is a section called the Skills Toolkit. Now, this was introduced during lockdown for the benefit of people that have been put on furlough, made redundant, etc., and were thinking, I might need to upskill a bit. So the government asked education and industry, well, what sort of skill gaps have we got and how can we fill it? And they came up with a range of courses there. So feel free to check those out on our website. If you're feeling crumbs, Steve did mention resilience a bit earlier, and that's something I might need to work on, then Carol Dweck's got some really useful resources, information. I particularly like one of her flow charts, which looks at have you got a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, and that can potentially challenge you to think in more of a growth mindset way of dealing with challenges, for example. Sean Acor has got 5 different ways in which to be more positive and build your resilience through 5 different activities, and he explains how and why that works, and there's a whole host of other resources available there. And obviously we've touched upon LinkedIn and having that profile and sticking that and making use of the 5-point plan to stick that in there, but LinkedIn's just one option. You've also got YouTube, for example, where you'll see people actually demonstrating what they're actually doing and capable of in a video. So have you thought of that as a way of marketing yourself? And there's more. Obviously I'm nearly out of time, but what I would highlight is you can talk about that with your university careers advisor. As Mark highlighted, although you've graduated, you can still tap into their services, but equally you can always tap into ours as well, and we can cover any number of these topics that we briefly touched upon. And the way to do that with us is either phone us on the 0800 100 900 number, or if you prefer, contact us on the web chat, and we are open 8 till 8 on Monday to Friday and 10 to 5 on the Saturday. So I hope that's given you a quick whistle-stop tour of a few things to think about, and it's given you some ideas, and you've got some questions and fired them off in the Q&A section. But just to kind of wrap things up, I think this little image here and little statement here kind of sums up quite nicely, and it highlights that the distance between your dreams and the reality is called action. So all the things that we've talked about are doing action kind of activities. So writing that CV and putting yourself on YouTube and showcasing the work that you can do there, and researching into your career further using prospects or the National Careers websites, checking out the labour market information, keeping abreast of news and so on and so forth. So I hope that all makes sense, and like I said, gives you a bit of food for thought. Like I did say, we will be emailing out to you the resources, but initially what we'll do is email you a link that we just ask you to click on and complete the contents of, and that will form a digital action plan. And once that's been typed up with the information you put in, we'll email that digital action plan back to you with the resources. So you're looking at the interview support pack, you're looking at the range of courses that are available, that are free, and more. So I hope that all makes sense. And when you do check your emails, if you can check both your inbox and your junk and spam. Unfortunately, some of the information we send out does end up in people's junk spam box and they miss it. So that's another little tip moving forward for the future, especially when you're applying to employers, that always check your junk and spam, because otherwise you might miss important things there. But I'll hand back to Mark now.
Great, thanks so much, Stephen. Thanks, some great advice there. I see a couple of questions have appeared in the Q&A, and one of the things that we didn't, well, Stephen's going to be hanging around, and so if you've got questions arising from Stephen's presentation, please put them into Q&A, and Stephen will be answering those for you. But what we've asked going forward is that all of our speakers allow some time for Q&A. So as you're listening to our speakers from the different employers, from the career services, please do put your questions into Q&A, and then my colleague George at the National Career Service is going to have a look at these questions and pick out the most popular ones, and then I will fire them to our presenters. So don't leave any questions unasked today. Even if they're not answered today, we will follow them up, and we will make sure that we email them to everybody who's attended. I put a couple of links in there about sites. I see there was a question also about where's the best place to look for graduate jobs. I would say those sites that have been their prospects and target jobs, but also look at your university career service, because every university career service will be putting lots and lots of information about either general job sites for graduates or subject specific sites for graduates. So you'll find a lot in there. So thank you, Stephen, for your presentation, and I want to give enough time now for our next speakers, who are from Deloitte, Charlotte Winderham and Khaled Musa, and I'm really grateful for you presenting today. So over to you.
Great, thank you, Mark, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be with you, so thanks for having us. Just some quick introductions so you know who you have here from Deloitte. My name is Charlotte Winderham. I work in the early careers recruitment team here at Deloitte. I've been with the firm for nearly 9 years now. Crikey, that's a long time. Always within early careers. But in a variety of roles, so from recruiting our apprentices, our interns, and our graduates as well. So I'm going to talk you through a bit more about the opportunities available, so in terms of career paths and service areas and business areas, and also the selection process that our graduates go through to be successful for a graduate role. And I'm joined also by Khaled, so I'll hand over to you if you want to just do a quick intro.
Yeah, thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, it's lovely to speak to you all this morning. So yeah, my name is Khaled Musa. I'm an analyst in Deloitte, and specifically within Deloitte Digital, which is a sub-department in their consulting division. And yeah, so I'm based in London, and I've been here for almost a year, like a few weeks' time. And luckily enough, I'm actually in the office today. I decided to switch things up, not work from home. So yeah, it's lovely to speak to you all today. And we'll be talking more about my experiences and the role itself.
Great, thank you. So we've touched on this a bit in our intros in terms of what we're going to cover, but for this 30-minute session, we thought we'd give you an overview of who Deloitte is, a bit more about the career paths and the career opportunities that are available at the firm. We're going to talk through a bit more about our graduate programme and what's involved, so Khaled is best placed to talk you through that. I'll then go through the different application process stages if you are interested in applying to us, and then Khaled, as he mentioned, is going to talk a bit more about his own journey, so how he decided to apply to Deloitte, how he found the application process, and then a bit more detail about what he's been doing on a day-to-day basis since he's joined. And then there should be time for us to answer any questions that you have at the end of our presentation. So in terms of who Deloitte is as a firm, so for those of you that might not be familiar, Deloitte UK is a leading professional services firm committed to making an impact for our clients, our people, and for society. We employ over 286,000 employees worldwide, and 20,000 people are across the UK. And all of our people provide services to public and private clients across multiple industries. And those services can be anything from audit and assurance, risk advisory, tax, legal, consulting, and financial advisory services. And Richard Houston, who is our CEO for Deloitte UK and Deloitte North and South Europe, has highlighted there in his quote that we genuinely care about well-being and making a positive contribution to the world. So we do give our people lots of opportunities to volunteer and do good work with charities alongside their day-to-day role. We're really keen to bring purpose to life for our people, and we believe in bringing out the best in the people that work at Deloitte. So we invest a lot of money journey every year to help teams get the skills, the qualifications they need to really make an impact in their field and live our purpose with their clients. We've got locations across all of the UK, specialising in all sorts of areas, and those would include graduate opportunities across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. And we've got a large community of graduates and apprentices, so we recruit around 1,500 graduates each year, and a smaller number, around 150 to 200 apprentices. So there's a real social side to the graduate experience as well. There's lots of groups and networks that you can join. There's obviously the volunteering opportunities to make an impact that matters for society, but you'll have the opportunity to connect, network, meet lots of new people, make new friends, and hopefully have fun along the way. So we're going to move on to a bit more about what opportunities are available at Deloitte for graduates. So this slide really just gives you an idea of the range of programmes and paths that we've got to really help you find which one is the right fit for you. As you can see, there's a lot of opportunities here. So on the outside of the semicircle, you've got our career paths. So these range from audit and assurance through to governance, risk, regulation, human capital and actuarial, all the way through to the right-hand side with technology. And I'm going to talk you through all of those in a bit more detail and what kind of roles you'd be going into with that. Under that, in the green semicircle, you've then got the programmes. And again, these range from school age, where the younger students would be joining our apprenticeship programmes, the entry-level apprentice or a Bright Start route, through to our undergraduate internships, such as the summer vacation scheme and industrial placements, and then the graduate programme, which is a permanent role once you've finished university, and which we'll focus on for today's presentation. And then our service lines, so those range from audit and assurance through to financial advisory, legal and tax consulting. And I guess one thing to just note with these is that we don't expect you to have any particular experience of the business area that you're looking to join. We really want to see that you're just keen to learn and show a real interest in the role that you're applying for itself. You'll be trained on any specific skills or systems or the ways of working that you need once you join us. So, as I mentioned, just want to talk you through some of those career paths in a bit more detail. So first off, we have audit and assurance. This part of the business is making sure a company's financial information is accurate to allow the shareholders to make vital decisions. You would be going on to client sites to get a detailed understanding of the business, identify key risks, and then I guess create strategies to be able to mitigate those. And obviously each industry would be faced with different risks. So you'll be working with lots of clients, with a team, and there's lots to learn as part of that. We've then got our business and financial advisory team, and the work this team do is all about finding the smartest solutions to the most difficult challenges. So you could be helping struggling businesses to shine again, advising the NHS, or finding ways to combat financial crime. In consulting, you'll help shape ideas, strategies and actions to help clients to succeed now and also in the digital future. And then we have our cyber team. So as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, cybersecurity has never been more relevant. Technology is everywhere, and a lot of organisations are becoming increasingly dependent on technology. So they're more exposed to exploitation, theft, fraud, abuse, and our cyber team helps our clients anticipate and minimise those risks. And then at the bottom there on this slide, we've got governance and risk and regulation teams. So in this team, we help our clients anticipate change and take action to ensure their success. So in the past, that's meant advising clients and helping them comply with regulations, and also now transform the way that they work and define what their future would be, with providing them risk solutions so that they can drive better performance within their organisations. We then also have human capital and actuarial. So two of the biggest challenges that companies face are getting the best out of their people and being ready for the future. So within human capital and actuarial, you'd be helping our clients maximise the potential of their team, assess all the challenges, risks and opportunities that would lie ahead for them. In Deloitte Legal, so this is quite a relatively new area that we've only recently started recruiting early careers talent in, but you would qualify as a solicitor in the Deloitte legal practice and work alongside a number of legal experts and also our wider network of accountants and consultants as well. In real estate, you help clients with everything from buying and selling property to preparing planning applications and creating spaces. And in tax, we combine strategy, technology, compliance and tax advisory to support them. And also technology is everything. So technology is everywhere and we have a lot of opportunities within that, that area as well to support the businesses. Okay, and I'm going to hand over to Khaled now, who's going to talk you through a bit more about the graduate programme.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, as Charlie mentioned earlier, the graduate program is not just any training program, it is a permanent job as soon as you enter. And there's a whole range of benefits and things you can learn on this program. Firstly, you can experience a whole variety of projects or opportunities depending on what career path or area you sit in. And there's you can make real impact. You're working with some of the biggest clients in the world, some of the biggest companies in the world. You can actually impact them, whether it's, for example, a government, you can work with the government of a country, to working for a supermarket down your road. There's a real range of opportunities you can really access. And alongside all of these kind of work you're actually working with some of the smartest and most like-minded people within the company. So these people that you'll be working with, your colleagues, they're not just your colleagues, they really care about you, they really look after you, and they really show you how they, for example, learn what they learned and share all those, over the years, what all the skills they've picked up on and pass it on to you and show you how, and gives you real kind of room to grow. And I think that's what is really good about Deloitte, is that it's not just about, okay, you're impacting Deloitte, you're impacting your clients. However, you actually have an area of a place to actually grow and learn new skills. So whether it's the training program that when you start for example, I had a 2-week training program at the beginning, whether it's that or throughout your 2 years or however long your graduate program is, when you can progress to qualifications or certifications, technology certifications, there's real opportunities to really pick up new skills. And what's really good about the graduate program is that it's a real starting place for your career trajectory and your career progression. So it's not just about your 2 years here at Deloitte or however long your graduate program is. You can really chart your career at Deloitte, and you can really see, okay, if I start from here, this is where I go. And again, it's not just about where you're based as well. You may be based in a certain office within the UK, for example, but there's real international kind of opportunities, and it all depends on what you can kind of pursue. And whether you want a certain role, a certain skill set, or work in a certain industry, it's really up to you. And you have that kind of, you have those mentors, you have those people, you have those opportunities open to you to really pursue that as well. So it's really it's a world-class training program, as it says right on the first line, and it really is. And I will be going a little bit more detail on how I found it so far, my 1 year in. But yeah, I'll hand it back to Charlotte to continue talking more about how to actually get in.
Great, thank you. And I hope that gives you all a bit of a flavour of what the programme offers and what it's like. And as Khaled said, he's going to talk a bit more about his own experiences when we get to that point in the presentation. Cool, okay. So I guess now moving on to the application process. If you are interested in making an application to us, we'd like to talk you through a bit more about how you go about applying to us. This process may differ slightly between programmes and the business areas that you decide to join. So if you do apply, please do visit our website first for further information on what the process will look like. But generally across most of our business areas, this will be the process that our candidates follow. And just important to say, we've designed our application process to give candidates the chance to show their true self. We assess everyone's merits in the context of their educational and personal circumstances. We do have entry requirements, including academic requirements. So we look at GCSE, English and maths. We look at UCAS points and then also predicted or obtained degree result. But they vary across different roles, and we are happy to adjust those to reflect certain situations. Also, if you require any reasonable adjustments throughout the process, please do let us know. There's the opportunity to do that on the application form or get in contact with us separately. And if you have any extenuating circumstances for reasons you might not have met the academic requirements that we asked for, then please do share those with us on the application form, and we can get in touch with you to discuss what accommodations, what flexibility is needed there as well. So on this slide, we have outlined 4 stages of the selection process, but I think before you even apply, there's another stage there around the research piece. So as I mentioned, we're not looking for you to have any prior experience or work experience in the area that you're looking to join, but we do want to know that you have motivation, so that you have some knowledge of and a strong interest in the area that you've applied for. Also an awareness of what we do at Deloitte and our culture. So it really helps us to see that you've thought about what you want to do and why you'd like to work at our firm as well. So a couple of points, I guess, before you even submit that application is really check that you meet the requirements of the particular programme and the business area that you're applying for. Read our website. We've got a number of assessment guides on there as well. There's also client case studies, there's people profiles as well, and it will give you a really great feel for the work we do in each business area and the day-to-day life at Deloitte. Attend as many events as you can. So although everything's being run virtually at the moment, we are still running a number of events. And all of that information can be found on the events section of our website. But again, it's an opportunity for you to meet people, answer any questions, again, understand a bit more about the firm and who we are. And the more you do and the more you know, the more prepared you will be for each stage of that selection process. So then it's about applying online. The first step is an online application form. So it takes about 20 minutes to complete. You'll be asked a series of questions relating to who you are, your personal details, and then obviously your education background as well. Depending on which programme you're applying for, you may also be asked which business area that you'd like to choose. That part is not an assessment, but it just gives us information about what you do day to day and the professional qualification that you'd be taking if you go down that route. And you'll also be asked to choose an office location for that role. Once you've completed the application, obviously before you submit it, make sure you read and follow all the instructions carefully, proofread, check your grammar and spelling, get someone else to check that for you, and don't try and not be vague or inaccurate about your results, as it will just slow your application down if we need to come back and check or correct things with you. And try and provide us as much information about your qualifications as you can, but if you do have international qualifications, please don't try and convert them into UCAS points. We'll do that for you as part of the process. Then you'd be invited to complete our immersive online assessment. So you'll be asked to look at possible work scenarios that you could experience in the workplace, and we ask you to answer honestly about how you'd respond in those situations, and you'll use rank order or multiple choice answers for those questions. It's not a timed assessment, but it usually takes around 40 minutes to complete. And all of the questions on this assessment have been carefully designed to assess the key strengths that are important for success at Deloitte. And it's really for you to get thinking about how you behave on a daily basis. And then following that assessment, you actually get a feedback report about your individual strengths and abilities. It doesn't provide you with the outcome of the assessment, but it does provide you with some valuable advice about how to develop your skills and make the most of your potential. And then if you're successful at that point, you'll be invited to complete our job simulation, which is an online case study assessment where everything on this assessment relates to the type of things you can do and achieve at Deloitte. So it's a great opportunity to test yourself, get a real idea of how well you'd perform in a role with us. And the questions are in a variety of formats. So you'll have some written responses to complete, some video responses, there'll be rank order and multiple choice as well. And appreciate that it might be the first time that you've taken assessment like this. So there are practice questions at the start for you to have a go at so that you feel comfortable with using the technology. And as we said, we've got a number of assessment guides on our website to just support you with that preparation. And then finally, the last stage of the assessment involves a live video interview, and that would be with a senior person from your chosen business area. And the role in the business area that you've applied for will determine what you are asked to do at this stage, but it will be an interview, but it might also involve a short topic question that you need to answer, or even a group exercise. But we do give all the details on format beforehand, so you'll have plenty of time to prepare. And with this stage, it's really an opportunity for us to get to know you better. It's a great opportunity for you to find out more about us and to ask any questions about the role, the business area, and if you feel the culture is a right fit for you. I've mentioned a couple of times, but we also have a great final stage assessment preparation guide, which can be downloaded from our website and gives you all the information about what's involved, the type of questions that we look for, and what you can expect from the selection process. So really would encourage you to take a look at all of the materials on there if you do decide to apply to us. And then after that, it would be the offer stage, and we aim to provide outcomes as soon as possible. So normally following that final stage assessment, you should hear from us within 1 week of that assessment. Oh, okay, so I'll hand back to you, Khaled, to just give a bit more experience. I don't know if you want to start with the assessment process and how you found that part, as we've just covered it. But yeah, just give a flavour of how you found your first 12 months at Deloitte.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Yeah, I can start off with, as you just mentioned, application process. I think you mentioned a really good point about the research element you should do before you start. I think that's really, really important. It probably gives you the best chance of succeeding, because if you understand what the Deloitte values are, if you understand what the culture is like at Deloitte, the things you need to have if you want to become a Deloitte employee, and also actually understand why you want to work at Deloitte, as well as the role you apply for, the motivations, it probably will help best you prepare for all the application stages. So it's really, really important that you do that and really understand your motivations, and it will just make you seem like makes you shine as a candidate when you're going through the application stages. It makes you feel a lot more confident. So I think that's probably my biggest tip. And it is, some of the stages are challenging. I remember when I was going through some of the stages, it's not the easiest process, but as the saying goes, like what's good doesn't come easy. So just work at it, and it's worth it. And yeah, just keep pushing, and also keep doing your research and try your best. And yeah, so I'll give a bit of a backstory of my journey into Deloitte. So I think it was a couple of years ago when I was in third year of university, so my penultimate, I was on a 4-year degree, so it was my penultimate year. I became interested in consulting, so did a simple thing of just Googling what are the best consulting firms in the UK, and Deloitte obviously was one of the top ones. But what I liked about Deloitte was as Charlotte was mentioned, through different career paths, there's a lot of technology involved in multiple areas. And technology, I was interested in technology, as well as this role called consulting, which is all about helping clients kind of build solutions and strategize solutions. So I wanted a role that kind of mixed the two together, and I found that Deloitte actually offered this within Deloitte Digital, and I applied for the internship. And when I applied for so this was a couple of years, so it wasn't a graduate program, but it was the internship, and the application process was very similar. And luckily enough, I managed to get the internship, and my internship experience was really amazing. It was for 5 weeks long, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think one of the key factors so when they gave me the offer, so if you were ever to do the internship, you could get a graduate offer as well. And I think one of the key reasons why I took the graduate offer was because the people at Deloitte, the people I met were so, welcoming. They were very, very helpful, and they really just allow you to kind of be yourself. I think that's the most important thing. Because if you're able to be yourself, then you can really, really shine and really develop as a person, really grow, and it gives you that room for error. So you're not always feeling under pressure. So yeah, I took the offer and I started the graduate program last year, so almost this time last year, and I've been here for 12 months almost, yeah. And just to go back on my role exactly, so it's a consulting role in the kind of the graduate analyst program. So it's a bit more of a generalist role, but there are opportunities to, I think it was mentioned on one of the slides, you can even apply for things like software engineering or data scientists, all these type of roles you can apply for, but you can also apply for a generalist type advisory role. And I think what's really good about this kind of role is that it gives you really, if you're one of those kind of people that are not 100% sure exactly what to do within the kind of consulting world or even any other pathways, it kind of gives you a chance to, across the graduate program, really find out what you like, what you don't like, and and then start building skills for that. So within Deloitte Digital, I've been kind of exposed to things like user research, UX design, service design, all these different design elements, and you get to work with a whole range of different people in different kind of specific roles, such as business analysts or software engineers. And of course, these are all specific to kind of maybe consulting or technology kind of world, but it's the same thing goes for throughout the the other pathways. And also, I think what I've really liked over the last is that I've really had a chance to build new skills. So there's great training programs, not just at the beginning of the year when you're first inducted into the kind of the graduate program, but also throughout the year. There's many training opportunities that not just for analysts as well, throughout the different kind of grades, as well as you have opportunities, free access to external kind of training providers such as LinkedIn Learning, etc. So I've been really building new skills that I've never learned before during uni or elsewhere, and it's really been good. And I think another good thing I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about the graduate program is that it's not just about project work or doing all this kind of client work. You can have opportunities to do things outside of that. So I think Charlotte mentioned things like volunteering. So for example, I'm part of the Deloitte Black Network, which is like a bit like at university where you have societies. There are things like that at Deloitte. So you have real opportunities to do those things or extracurricular activities. I remember I got an email last week about Golf Society. So there's a whole range of things you can get involved in. And I think what's great about it as well, similar to uni, is that you have the kind of chance to start new things. So I remember I had a friend that made a book club within Deloitte Digital, so you have the opportunity to do things outside of your work as well. And yeah, I want to last thing I want to cap it off is one of the best things about this graduate program, I think I mentioned before, is the people as well. So I think I think a lot of times, big corporate companies, they kind of have that kind of image of it being a bit scary, and it's a new world you haven't really entered before, you haven't been in before, but the people there are just like you. They're very similar to you, and they understand what you're going through because they went through it themselves. So they really give you the chance to kind of to be yourself and kind of make mistakes and ask questions all the time. You're really not pressured into doing anything. So yeah, so it's a really great place to be at. And I don't want to take too much time, sorry about that, but if you have any questions specifically about the program, just let me know. But yeah.
Oh, thank you, Khaled. I think we're close to time now, but thanks all very much for listening to us. I hope that's been useful and given you a good overview of Deloitte. Just conscious of time, and I'm sure there's lots of questions coming in, so I will go back to the Q&A and respond to some of those if we don't get a chance to talk through them. I think a couple have come through. Are there any particular degree subjects you prefer when hiring graduates? No, we do have some roles which have specific degree subjects. So if you were to join real estate, we do often require a certain qualification there, and some of our technology roles, but generally the majority of them, it's not a specific degree subject. We look at the degree grade that you've obtained, so we're looking for a 2-1, and it's much more about your motivation and wanting to join the firm and be trained up once you join. Will you only consider recent graduates? No, not at all. We have had people who have gone off taken a different career path and decided that it's not for them and they want to come back and join us. So there's no limit on how long ago you had to that you graduated before you joined, so it's open to anyone that meets the requirements. And then if I'm unsuccessful the first time round, can I reapply for a job? Yes, we do ask that you only make one application per intake. So we open in our applications in September for the following September start date. So if you were unsuccessful in this campaign, you would need to wait until we opened for the following year's applications before you could reapply. But obviously, as I mentioned, the immersive online assessment, you would get that bespoke feedback report. So you could see where your strengths were, where potentially you had some development points. And then at final stage assessment, if you were unsuccessful at that point, you'd also get a feedback call to understand perhaps where you had fallen down in the process, gives you some time to take all of that feedback away, work on those development points and come back for a new application in the following intake. Oh, look at that, 11 o'clock on the dot. Right, I think we'll have to finish it there so the rest of the presentation doesn't run behind. But as I said, we'll try and get back to as many of those questions in the chat as we can. Over to you, Mark.
Charlotte, Khaled, that was fantastic. Really great insight into Deloitte, the kind of opportunities, and I'm sure lots of people are interested. Charlotte and Khaled are going to answer all of the questions in the chat, not some of them. You're going to answer all of them. So, and I think there's some really general questions in there that I think everybody's going to be interested in. So what I'd urge is, because we haven't had time to get to all the questions, please have a look back at the Q&A chat, because I think that will answer questions that lots of people have got. The other thing I'd say for anybody who's just listened and is thinking, oh, we should ask this, please post your question now. It's not too late. Get your question in there, and then Charlotte and Khaled will stay as long as it takes to answer all of the questions and make sure that you go away with all that answered. That was really brilliant. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate your presentation. And Khaled, your kind of experience of being in the organisation and what it's like as a new graduate, I think that's been really helpful. So thank you both. And one of the things I do want to say is there are lots of organisations like Deloitte and that make up that offer graduate programmes and that are available. And I'd urge you to talk to your University Career Service, National Career Service, about the different types of organisations that are out there. The other thing I'd like to say though as well is sometimes people think, well, these are the only jobs that are available to graduates. And actually, when you look at the number of graduates coming out of higher education and you look at the graduate schemes that's just been described, it's probably about 1 in 10 grads who go into those kind of opportunities. Lots of grads work in organisations that aren't necessarily offering schemes or aren't necessarily ranked in the Times top 100 or 300 employers. Lots of graduates go and work for small and medium-sized businesses, and sometimes they can say, well, actually I failed because I haven't got into the kind of programs. But actually most graduates go and work in jobs, and so whatever you're applying for, choose something that you like, something that you're going to be happy in. And it might be a scheme that you've just been described, but it might not be, and don't see that as a failure. So thank you so much. Look forward to seeing all the questions answered. Really brilliant presentation. And now we've got Lauren Hurst, who's going to talk about career opportunities with Kent Police. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing this as well. So Lauren, over to you, please.
Hi, Mark. Thank you very much. Can you see me and hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
Excellent, that's great. Okie dokie. Well, hi everyone. My name's Lauren. I'm from recruitment from Kent Police. I am a recruitment assistant and I'm part of the corporate recruitment team. What I'm basically going to be discussing with you today is I'm going to be introducing you to our new PEQF programme, which we've recently just installed into our police force. And I think it'll be really beneficial for you graduates, because obviously, if you're interested in kind of obviously doing policing, or you've done sort of like a degree in criminology or forensics psychology, anything like that, then I think this kind of presentation might be beneficial to you, because we do get a lot of people that come that do a degree at university that involves, criminology or forensic or whatever, and this is kind of field that they want to go into. So what I was just going to do is I'm just going to share my screen, because I've got got a PowerPoint presentation to show you. So what I'll do is, can you see my screen, everyone? Mark, can you see that? I assume that's a yes.
Yeah, it's all good, Lauren.
Excellent, great, thank you very much. It's always awkward when you carry on and no one can see anything. So what I'm just going to start with is we're just going to start with a quick video, just to kind of get to know Kent Police a little bit more, kind of what we do, and I'll just click on that now for you guys to listen. I'll just double check actually that I've shared my computer sound. 1 second. Okie dokie. Right, so okie dokie. So right, I'm just gonna move on to the next slide. So
Get on the floor! Thrust.
right, so I hope you all enjoyed that video. So what I was just going to say to you is we are here to obviously take the opportunity to highlight to you the wide variety of opportunities available right now with Kent Police. What I was going to say to you is what we obviously are really kind of focused on at Kent Police is we're looking for people that have got qualities such as having a passion for public service, desire and commitment to help guide and protect people at the time when they need it. We also really want to obviously recruit people that have got a desire to make a real difference in life. Policing is a vocation and people will join to make a real difference in society for individuals and communities. Moral courage to do the right thing is also another thing as well that we really kind of look for in candidates. we want you to be able to be the right person that stands up for what is right, potentially in the face of adversity. And also, pride in everything you do is massively important. So policing is tough and it's complex and it's challenging, but also hugely rewarding. So it's an honour and a privilege to have the opportunity to keep people safe and help the most vulnerable in our society. So if this does sound like you, then this is the kind of person that we're kind of looking for. So why policing? So ask any officer or member of staff and they will tell you why they choose and love policing. So it's a rewarding role. You're helping others through difficult times, solving crimes, improving quality of life, engaging with breadth and depth of local communities. It is challenging, so you are dealing with members of the public on sometimes the worst days of their life for a whole myriad of reasons. So they will look to you to make it better. Sometimes you can, sometimes you might not be able to, but I can guarantee you will push yourself to do the best that you can in the situation, and you'll be more than you have ever thought, and that is immensely satisfying. It's also a very varied role, so you'll see shortly a range of opportunities available for both officers and staff that we have at Kent Police. At Kent Police, at the moment, we have about 3,923 force officers. In terms of staffing, we have 2,568. For community support officers, we have 343. And for specials, we have 366. So if you feel like you want to be part of a team 24/7 and you're all about obviously engaging and helping the community and, you know, making sure your crewmates are fine, what you'll find then this is probably the right role for you as well. You will build bonds with a lot of your colleagues quite quickly, and you will come through some really challenging times, but your colleagues will be there to kind of pick you up. Also, achievement links closely to the rewarding element. There is no feeling like when you're finally getting a victim to open up about years and years of abuse, or when you catch the burglar who stole some sentimental items from a victim's home. So it's a really fulfilling role to get yourself into, really rewarding. It is quite challenging, but I think the reward kind of outweighs the challenging part of it, because it's a really satisfying feeling knowing that you're going out there and you're helping people. So why Kent? So basically, we have been independently assessed as an outstanding force. So Kent Police is the only UK force to have received an outstanding grading for legitimacy for 4 years in a row. We focus on what matters to the public of Kent. Our mission is to provide a first-class service 24/7, protecting and serving the people of Kent and supporting those most vulnerable in our communities. You're always putting victims first and witnesses at the heart of what you do, and providing a visible local service to the public. But we also have to treat our staff. We have exceptional support development opportunities within Kent Police, from internal health and wellbeing provision, mindfulness and reflective practice programs, counselling services, to our Develop You programme, which is available to all and allows all officers and staff to undertake core personal development opportunities in their chosen career. So there's a lot of career progression in Kent Police. You don't have to just stay in the same position throughout your entire career. You can move about. So there's a lot of lateral and promotional development. Our location as well means that we are the gateway to Europe, with 4 international ports. So this includes the Channel and the largest motorway network in the country. We've also got diverse communities, so opportunities to work alongside other police services, enforcement agencies and foreign countries as well. So this will be discussed in more detail shortly, but the policing education qualification framework, so the PEQF that I mentioned at the beginning, it has 2 different routes to it. You've got the PCDA route, which is known as the Police Constable Degree Apprenticeship route, and you've got the DHEP route, which is known as the Degree Holder Entry Programme. Basically, I'm going to talk about them in a bit more detail further on. You also will get a progressive salary available at all ranks and grades. A career average pension is also available as well. For all employees, there are additional benefits such as free gym facilities, discounts, travel schemes and childcare vouchers. So in terms of the salary, police officers will start at a salary of £26,408 to £27,000 280. So the salary is obviously quite good, and after 7 years that will rise to 43k. And this does include the 2,500 South Eastern allowance. So yeah, really good opportunities in terms of career progression, and really good starting salaries as well, and a lot more benefits as well to working with Kent Police. So now I'm going to talk to you about the entry route. So we have at the moment a PCDA route, which is a 3-year probation with local policing and crime investigation elements. And then once obviously you've completed your PCDA, you will then have the opportunity to get promotion opportunities that are available at Kent Police. We also have our DHEP route. So the degree holder entry program. So this will probably be more suited to obviously people that have got their degrees already. So you will have a 2-year probation with local policing and crime investigation elements. Then once confirmed, lateral and promotion opportunities available. There are currently vacancies also within our force control room as well, if you didn't decide that you wanted to go for the police constable route. And also, we do allow a bit of leeway when it comes to certain qualifications. So if you don't have certain qualifications such as English or maths, then you can do other routes. So you can obviously go into the staffing role first if you wish to, and that will make you eligible to apply. So if you're with us as a staff for 2 years, then that will make you eligible to apply to become to then apply under the PCDA route or the DHEP route. So like I said, you can join any Kent Police role if you like for this staffing route. It can be PCSO, IMU or FCR. So like I said, you complete the probation period, and then service in these roles is taken as an equivalent of the qualification eligibility criteria, and you'll be assessed for academic suitability for the PCDA route. So once past this element of the eligibility stage, the candidate will then complete the remainder of the recruitment process. So basically, what else was I going to say to you as well? In terms of obviously our fast track scheme, this is a national development programme which allows the most talented constables to advance to the rank of inspector within 2 years and show potential to reach the rank of superintendent throughout their career. The programme has been designed by the College of Policing, who collate applications from all forces. To be eligible, you must be a serving regular constable. You can apply whilst under probation, but must have completed full initial training for PCDA. This will be the full year probation period, okay? So you have to do the PCDA route first. The programme starts with an in-force application and paper sift. If successful, candidates are put forward to the National Assessment Centre and candidates are tested against Superintendent CVF Level 3 competencies. Okie dokie, right, so we'll move on to the next slide. So I thought I'd go into a bit more detail about the police constable degree apprenticeship route. So this will be suitable for those of you who do not have a degree. Obviously, I know a lot of people on this call are going to be graduates, but if you decided actually last minute you didn't want to do a degree anymore, then I think maybe this route might be useful for you. And this also route is useful for those who don't have their English or their maths. So basically, applying to join as a police constable is still very much about on-the-job training, but with the added benefit of gaining a BSc Honours in Professional Policing, this will be a work-based degree that you complete whilst working for Kent Police as a student officer. So you will earn a competitive salary, enjoy an excellent range of employee benefits and support networks, and make a difference to Kent communities. You will be a police officer from the day you join, embarking on an exciting career in policing where no 2 days are the same. So in order to meet the eligibility criteria, like I said, usually for this role you have to have GCSE in maths or English, but if you don't, that's not a problem, because there are other alternatives that you can do. So you have to take additional assessments during this route if you don't have your English and maths GCSE. You have to have had 2 A-level qualifications. So basically minimum grade C. This can be a level 3 qualification as well. So if you went to college and obviously got a level 3 BTEC or anything like that, but they have to equate to 64 AGCAS points. If you do not hold these required qualifications, you can still apply, like I said. And if you possess one of the following qualifications and or have the required experience, in this instance, you'll be required to undergo additional assessments. So if you don't have these certain qualifications, it's fine, but you will just have to undergo additional assessments in order to pass the recruitment process. So basically, that's that kind of one in a nutshell. What we're going to move on to now is the degree holder entry program, which I think is going to be more beneficial to most of you on the calls. So what you're going to do is, with the degree holder entry program, these are for the people who have a degree in any subject. So you can apply under this route if you have a degree in any subject. It can be performing arts, it could be art, it can be whatever you want. What you'll do with this route, again, you will earn a competitive salary, enjoy an excellent range of employee benefits, like I've spoken about before, and support networks and make a difference to Kent communities. You'll be a police officer from the day you join, embarking on an exciting career in policing where no 2 days are the same. So this is the important part. To join the degree holder entry program, you must have an honours degree, level 6 qualification or above in any subject, apart from the pre-join degree, so degree in professional policing, from a recognised higher education establishment. Okay, so you have to do the 3 full years at university to have a full degree to be able to apply under this route. You will need to meet the eligibility criteria for becoming a police officer and pass the online assessment. So all qualifications will have to be evidenced before a formal offer is issued. So the training programme, you will start your training at Kent Police Training College in Maidstone with some classroom-based learning. You will also join an operational policing team who you will work alongside in operational day-to-day policing. The programme will cover a wide range of policing topics, including policing, police law and police powers, protection, vulnerability and public protection, policing communities, response policing and investigating crime, police leadership, coaching and mentoring, officer safety training, emergency life support, safeguarding, crime investigation and operational policing skills. You will undertake both operational and academic written assessments whilst you're training, including exams, essays and presentations, throughout the programme to demonstrate your ability to carry out your policing responsibilities. So you'll be required to complete an operational competence portfolio with evidence of your achievements and pass operational assessments against a range of critical policing skills. You'll be fully supported in applying new skills and knowledge as part of your operational studies. This will let you put into practice what you are learning and help you develop the skills and experience you need for this challenging but rewarding role. You will need to successfully complete both operational and academic assessments before being awarded the degree. Okie dokie, so this is kind of just a general kind of rundown of our eligibility requirements that you need in order to apply for any role within Kent Police. So we welcome applications from individuals from all backgrounds, cultures, religions, ages, genders and sexual orientation. So you have to be, in terms of age, you have to be 17 years old or older in order to apply, and you can't actually start the training until you are 18. So we won't actually be able to give you an offer of employment until you actually turn 18. We advise that candidates who do apply have no tattoos on the face, neck or the hands, and you have no criminal record, which is not an automatic bar. So each case will be assessed on its individual circumstances. All convictions, cautions, contact with the police must be declared in the application process. You must have no CCJs, so a county court judgment, any IVAs, so an individual voluntary arrangement. What I would say is if you ever do get the chance, please have a look on our Kent Police website careers page for full eligibility requirements and further guidance if you'd like to find out more info. So, recruitment and selection. So, your application is submitted via Kent Police website. You will get asked 3 questions in your application form that you need to make sure that you answer fully. You will get asked motivational question as your first question. So, why do you want to be a police officer and what are your expectations of the role? And why do you think you'd be a good police officer? And they also get another question as to what prep you have done, and obviously if you've previously applied and whether you've been unsuccessful. So what I'd say is just make sure you do a lot of reading on our Kent Police website to prepare you for the application form. When the shortlisting occurs, if you are successful, the candidates attend a mandatory briefing where the recruitment team will give advice on the whole process, normally 4 weeks later after you've submitted your application form. So candidates must complete also the Kent Online Assessment Centre virtual workshop to be progressed in the recruitment process. So you do a virtual workshop for the online assessment and then you do an online assessment for it as well. So this online assessment is run by the College of Policing and it's also basically a competency based exam assessment, and basically you'll be given a lot of information as to how to do it when you do the workshop. Okay, so you won't be left in the lurch. Your senior interview is also a competency based interview with a panel of 2 senior officers or staff, and this can include an inspector or above. Then when you all pass your senior interview and online assessment, you will then do your pre-employment checks. So this will include your medical, fitness, biometrics and vetting. So your fingerprints, DNA samples and fitness are all carried out usually within the same day. So you'll come down to our Kent Police College and you'll do them all in the same day. If you fail the fitness test, don't worry, then you'll be allowed 2 further attempts within 12 weeks. You will also have basically on the fitness test, you will have a 15-metre bleep test to level 5.4. So you have to run back and forth for about 3 minutes 30 seconds in order to pass the fitness test. If successful, then you return at a later date for medical checks with a doctor. So we have to make sure that you're medically fit to do the police officer role. So we do medical checks, which include height and weight check. Criteria is to have a BMI of 30 or less. You have to have good lung function, good blood pressure. GP will do an exam, just a general health check, just to run through the questionnaire that you will submit throughout your recruitment process. And you'll also have a hearing and eye examination as well. In the background, whilst all that is going on, you will have other checks which will be happening, such as vetting and references. So you will also have a home visit, which we now at the moment are calling a final candidate checkpoint due to COVID, which is where you will have a online, it's kind of like an online formal chat with a member of our team or a police officer, and they will just run through general questions around obviously drug relations or alcohol relations, and they'll just do final checks on you just to make sure that you're happy with what you're going to be doing in terms of the role. So that's basically kind of all that in a summary. What I'm going to do now is we've also got another video to show you as we're now coming towards the end of our presentation. So I'm just going to click on that now.
I am more than the hand that holds, the ear that listens. I am more than the voice that calms and the strength that protects. I am more than each decision that I have to make. I'm about more than just clocking in and clocking out. I'm more than keeping people safe, locking up those that would do us harm, and helping those in need. I am more than I ever thought I could be. I am more than the badge. I am a Kent police officer. Search Kent Police Jobs to find out how you can begin an amazing career that pays as soon as you start training. Kent Police, more than the badge.
Right. Excellent. So if you did want to know more about us, then please check our website, find us on Facebook, or find us on Instagram or Twitter by using the links below. But yeah, if you've got any questions, then by all means, I'll hand it over to Mark now, if that's all right.
Yeah, Lauren, thank you so much. That was really interesting. And thank you so much. Now, we haven't got very long, but there are some questions that have popped in. One of them is about, does this, so I suppose I've got a question, which is, do you have to live in Kent to apply to join Kent Police? No.
No, you just got to be obviously a bit cautious of the fact that you will have to travel to Kent on a daily basis. So, yeah.
Or move to Kent.
Yeah, you can move to Kent. Yeah, obviously, it would probably be ideal. We get people that are living in Sussex that do commute over to Kent and just go to a police station on a daily basis, because we're kind of on the border of Sussex. Some of our police stations are, so we can offer sometimes candidates that. But yeah, you will have to take into consideration the travel.
Okay, but that's not going to limit me if I decide that I'm going to move to Kent or the surrounding areas. So that's great.
No, that's fine. Yeah, you can come from anywhere.
Okay, and so if I'm looking at other parts of the country to apply to their forces, does the advice you've given there, does that apply to other parts of the country? And how would I find out about working for another force or service in another part of the country?
So basically, I don't know how obviously other forces work, but the presentation that I've shown you today is all of it is to do with Kent Police. I know that other forces do things a lot differently. I know like a lot of forces, we hold workshops, so like we're doing at the moment, where we hold obviously like a virtual event where candidates can listen into if they want to find out more information about that specific force. But no, all of the information that I've given you today is solely like focused mainly on Kent Police.
So I suppose the advice is to look at the other police services and see what their advice would be. So, okay. And one other question, which has popped in. You talked about the BMI, 30 or less, but do you have to be a particular height or weight? And does it differ for males and females? As long as your BMI is under that?
No. So I think years and years ago there used to be a height restriction, but we've now got rid of that. So no, you don't have to be a certain height. As long as your BMI is 30 or less, then that's not a problem. And as long as you can pass the fitness test, then that's not a problem either.
Brilliant. Okay, we've run out of time, but that was so interesting. Lauren, can I ask you a favour? Will you just have a look at the Q&A? Because I think there's another couple of questions, and if you could just reply in the chat to those, would that be okay?
Yeah,
and
that's not a
so if
problem.
anybody's got any other questions that haven't been answered through Lauren's presentation, just pop them into Q&A probably pretty quickly so that Lauren's got a chance to answer them before you get off. But thank you so much. That was really interesting.
That's not a problem.
Really enjoyed the video parts of it as well. So thank you so much.
That's all right. Not a problem. Lovely speaking to you guys.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to move on. We've got another presentation now, just scrabbling through my notes. This has been so interesting. So we've got a presentation now, no pressure because they have been interesting so far. Steve Outerside and Dean Humphrey, who are going to be talking about graduate opportunities at the Rosalind Franklin Laboratory. So are Steve and Dean here? Yes, I think. Yes.
They are just sorting that out now, just a slight hiccup, but it will be Stephen in a moment.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Okay, so it always goes on behind the scenes, doesn't it? And it's but it'd be, but I mean, I found it really interesting this morning. I hope you found it interesting, plugging in. Oh, Dean's just arrived, so he's just coming in. So apologies for the short delay. I'm sure we'll crack on in a moment. Ah, hello. Are you Steve or Dean? Oh, you're on. Ah, I get to say it. You're on mute, I'm afraid. There. Oh. There we go. Are you Steve or Dean?
I'm Dean.
Brilliant. Is Steve with you, or is he joining? Or
Steve should be joining us any moment now.
I am here, if you can hear me.
There you go.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Well, look, we're really looking forward to your presentation about working in a laboratory setting. Really interested in what you're going to say today. So thanks so much for contributing, and I'll pass over to you.
I'm ever so sorry. I seem to have two things going on at the moment.
No worries. Are you seeing? You seeing this? We've got a slide deck that's appeared on screen.
Is that from me?
Yes.
Because if that's from me, I'm happy to continue. So good
Okay.
morning, everyone.
Great, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Dean Humphrey. I'm a recruitment manager with the Rosalind Franklin Laboratories. Alongside my colleague here, Steve, outside, we're going to introduce you to the Rosalind Franklin Laboratories. If you bear with me 1 minute, I don't seem to be able to progress through my presentation as it stands at the moment, but I will do my best for you. A few technical problems, I'm very sorry. Right, can everybody see the next slide?
Yeah, that's
Rosalind, brilliant
Yeah.
stuff. Okay. So George is hosting this for me. So the Rosalind Franklin Laboratory. Rosalind Franklin, if we can move on to the next slide, is accredited with saying that everyday life, science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. This is an ethos that's still shared by everyone involved in our unique environment. In the coming minutes, we're going to take you through the lab and its current guise and tell you a little bit about the future of the project and where you could fit into this process. So the next slide is what it means to be part of the Rosalind Franklin Laboratory. This is your opportunity to help make a difference. We've all been affected by COVID-19 in the years, and in the years to come, you'll be able to tell friends and family that you played a part. At the Test and Trace Lab in Leamington, you'll be working with one of the world's leading and largest diagnostic laboratories. Our high throughput labs have been built with state-of-the-art technology to produce high volumes of output. So who are we? The next slide, sorry. We are, as suggested, a state-of-art laboratory, originally set up in the end of 2020 and going live mid-2021. It was set up to tackle the current pandemic that we find ourselves in. Now, one thing that was becoming quite evident is that with the high numbers of cases that were being reported and the high number of tests that were being completed, there was a very big need for things to speed up, for the process to speed up and become much more accurate. So the UK HSA was formed, and the Rosalind Franklin Laboratory was set up. It is the largest of its kind. It currently has capacity to run in the region of 12 lines, and we do have the capacity at full volume to be processing in excess of 300,000 tests per day. Now, one thing that we should make everybody aware of is that at the moment we are performing a test and trace function. So we're not having a look at what variants come from this. We're just reporting on how many people currently have a variant of COVID. It's set up in a very different manner to many other laboratories that you might come across, in that the best way I can describe it is like a football stadium, where the football pitch is where the current laboratories are set up, and they are a building in themselves. And that building sits within another building, which is a large warehouse that we took on from the previous owner, and that's where the office space and supporting function comes in. There is a large wellness and centre being set up within site, so that everybody that's working within the labs does have an area to go to eat and drink and meet. So the future is very bright for us. If I could pass over to Steve now, just to run you through the opportunities that we have in the lab, that would be great.
Thanks, Dean. Much appreciated. I'm Steve. I'm a recruitment manager also at the Rosalind Franklin Laboratory. Obviously, we have many opportunities here, and we're excited to offer university graduates the experience that is typically needed to work in other laboratories as well. We offer like intensive and practical on-the-job training, which is great with some of the some of the best minds in the UK, setting you up to really kickstart your career. So it's really exciting in that sense. Our roles incorporate revolutionary automated science with our state-of-the-art technology, creating bespoke processes to the testing process, what Dean has mentioned already. This will allow you to stay current and put you at the forefront of your field. So there's, it's for future opportunities with you as well. Obviously, I'm sure you're aware there is multiple stages within the testing process. So your day-to-day duties can vary, giving you a much variety within your working day. Breaking down the roles, if we just move the slide on just one, please. If we give an example of the roles that we have, sorry, and the next one again. Here we go. Thank you very much. This gives you a breakdown of some of the typical roles that you, as a newly, what's the word I'm looking for? So you've just got your degree, you're moving into, or you're an undergraduate. These are the type of roles that you could get. Okay. So the breakdown of the roles recruiting within the specific pitch to graduate roles. So move on to the next slide. So you can be part of history. Thank you very much. Remember, we are a purpose-led organisation. This is an opportunity to help and make a difference by working at a large diagnostics laboratory and support public health. Your work is critical to help us break the chain of transmission. This is what we've all been trying to do for 2 years. Join us in this opportunity, working at one of the largest laboratories in the world, where, again, Dean has mentioned, we're making, we have the possibility of doing 300,000 tests per day. If you move on to the next slide, please. Unfortunately, the world is caught off guard by COVID, and the nations throughout the world are now committed to being prepared next time. You'll be participating in a global investment to prepare and tackle future diseases and virus outbreaks. Your work will help to ensure the safety of people in the future as well. NHS Test and Trace is becoming one of the parts of the National Institute of Health Protection, which is NIHP. The NIHP's primary focus is ensure that we have the best capability to protect from external threats to this country's health, such as pandemics, biological weapons, infectious diseases of all kinds, etc. So all this to control diseases and deal with pandemics and to help protect ourselves in a crisis as well. So next slide, please. So joining us, we do offer like training, for example, sample boxing, viral unbagging, and RNA testing. Scientists will be offered patent file transfer training, equipment training, and have opportunities to gain accreditation to use different types of machinery. Juniors will also have the opportunity to gain skills in PCR methodology, liquid handling robots, and 384 format pooling. Senior scientists will be offered training to extend your already accomplished technical skills and position your scientific career for further growth as well and success. You also receive more supervisory and managerial roles training, and also other opportunities moving up the chain. So there's opportunity all the time within the laboratory. People are moving up the chain within 3, 4, 5, 6 months of them joining the laboratory. So there's great opportunity to be had. Next slide, please. The best way to describe this laboratory right now is like flying a plane, okay, while we're building it. Okay, so there's a lot of things going on all around us. We're just literally designing our well-being and refreshments area. I think Dean mentioned it a little bit earlier on, which is a massive reception area where your well-being as scientists and our future staff, this is where we look after you, and this is where we can answer a lot of questions with HR hubs, etc. We offer shuttle services into the laboratory because where it's situated, we have easy parking, we have bike facilities. It is a great place to actually work. The best way to describe it again is it's like working on a university campus. There's some great minds all around all the time, and you learn things every single day. And also, within these roles, remember, we're a 24-hour establishment. So, there's a lot of shift patterns within this place. So it's not just a 9 till 5 role. There is shift patterns as well. But it's not just about us, okay? It's all about the people who work there. If you just move on to the next slide, please. And I'll pass back over to Dean so he can give us some examples and of how we hear from our people and what they're saying for people who are working there now.
Thank you, Steve. So, how do you become a part of the Rosalind Franklin Laboratories? Well, the process is quite simple. I mean, we have been set up with, and I'm not going to go into too many of the technical terms for you right now, but we have been set up very, very quickly. As you can imagine, this isn't something that was being planned in advance. We didn't know the pandemic was going to be hitting us, and we didn't know it was going to be such a big slap in the face that it has been. But what we have done is we've had to set up this massive lab function very, very quickly. So at the moment, what we're offering is 18-month contracts. Now, one thing that people might shy away from is the word contract. I think it's very key at this point to spell out that with the investment that's taking place in the laboratory, this isn't a short-term fix. The future of the laboratory is extremely bright. Currently testing for COVID. Plans in the future could move into other things as PCR testing becomes less of a requirement in our day-to-day lives. There are certainly plans for us to work into and move into genomics, where we start having a look at the variants that we're handling and that we're working with. Which is an exciting prospect, very exciting prospect for everybody that's working in the laboratory here, as well as opening other assays that might help with other research and other testing and tracing, whether that's within cancer or influenza or other similar sorts of areas that we have to face on a daily basis and battles that we have to face. So the future is exceedingly bright, and I think that's been reflected very, very nicely by our current workforce. Our workforce is around about 800 people at the moment. The workforce runs through our warehouse function into our laboratories and then out into our support roles. Pathways to success are down to individuals. So whatever you're coming in to work with us, in whatever position you're coming to work with us, there is an open pathway for you to progress. We have recently undertaken an internal recruitment process where we've been able to successfully promote a large number of people into senior and associate principal scientist roles, which we're really, really pleased about, because it just shows our development is working as well. So if we could move on to the next slide. Without going into too much detail or reading through these word for word, we can make these details, these documents available to you. I think there's a few key bits of feedback here that I would like to pick out for you. The scale of work, and these are all from current employees within the Rosalind Franklin Laboratories. The scale of work is unlike anything else I've previously experienced. Now, I don't know who that's come from. I don't know what their background is, but I think it's very clear from that if we're looking at progressing in excess of 300,000 tests per day, it's a massive task, which is why we work a 24/7 operation. Another one I'd like to pick out is some of the samples we receive include messages from the individual being tested. we love these. It reminds us of why we're doing what we're doing. I think it's another thing that we take great pride in is the fact that literally every sample that comes through our facility is somebody's health in our hands. We don't know what their personal circumstances are. We don't know whether or not they're going to be self-isolating as a result of the results that we deliver to them. We don't know what impact that is going to have on them. So we have to treat every single sample with the utmost respect. I'll give you some time to just absorb a few more of those if you are reading them. And then if we move on to the next slide, please. So I think the final one is the call to arms. We offer a great opportunity for people to come and join a state-of-the-art facility within the heart of England. So within easy commutable distance, we do have major train lines running through Leamington. We have free on-site parking for those that wish to travel by car. We have a massive opportunity for progression, not only within COVID, but within future assays. So all we can ask is come and join us to ensure the safety of our nation now and into the future. And that's it from us and our slides, and I'm happy to answer any questions if I can.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dean. Thanks, Steve. That was really interesting. And as you say, a massive challenge. Please put questions into the Q&A panel if you've got them. I'm going to kick off though, because Dean or one of you talked about having 800 people at currently, and I might have missed this, but what kind of growth are you looking for? How many people?
Well, I think the plan, the site is expected to reach in total around 1,800 people. We're going through, our growth comes in spurts, as you can imagine. We have to feed people in at certain levels, and then we're progressing people within those levels as well. But the bread and butter of our recruitment comes at the scientist, the lab assistant and the senior scientist levels. And from there, we're happy to work with the individuals to progress them through the ranks. Salary wise as well, I mean, there's no other lab in the country that can offer the salaries that the Rosalind Franklin laboratory can offer. That they're extraordinary.
Okay. Are you able to give us some idea for a graduate from a relevant degree thinking about coming over to you?
If we were looking at an entry level position for that, we might be looking at somebody that's working in what typically in a warehouse environment might be a goods in function, but within a scientific setting. We would be looking at starting salaries of 30,000.
That's really helpful. And one of the questions that come in is opportunities for international students. If international students plan to stay in the UK, are international students able to apply?
We do accept international students, yes. We're not in a position at the moment to be offering any sort of visa sponsorship, unfortunately, because the way we've been set up, we work with a managed service provider, which is a company called Medax. And because everybody is going to be coming in on this contract function, then it's a little difficult for us to offer that sponsorship. But certainly if you are in the country, you have your visa in place, we will accommodate it, assuming you meet the criteria. yeah,
of course, you've got to meet the criteria. I mean, in terms of the visa status, I can't remember the exact name of it, but actually for students staying in their first 2 years, it's completely changed, and it's much easier for, you know, if graduates have got a job, so you're not being asked to sponsor. So we could look to put something in about that. You talked about Leamington Spa as a place, and obviously it sounds very attractive from the way that you describe it, but do you have other UK offices?
We don't know. I mean, we're literally working from the laboratories in Leamington. That's our responsibility. There are numerous what they would call lighthouse laboratories that have popped up around the country in response to the pandemic. One thing that I should make very clear is that this is a government funded and government run organised function, whereas some of the other laboratories would be run on a profit basis. So anybody that's coming to work with us, yes, you will be working for, at the moment, the Department of Health and Social Care, but we're moving towards the UK HSA.
Okay, and for people who want to work in a kind of government funded, a kind of public sector organisation like this, are there other parts of the UK that people can apply to? Are there call to arms kind of thing to help, or is it just the yours that you're aware of?
It's just ours that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Some good questions coming in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're quite specific, but are you able to? It'd be great to answer this. So one is, what opportunity would be most suitable for a person with an undergrad in biotech and an MPH who has wet lab knowledge but is looking for dry lab career at your institute?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Going right in with the technical questions there. Okay. Now, I'm not a scientist, and I'll make that very clear up front. I've been 22 years in recruitment now, and this is quite new to me as well in working with scientists. But the function that we operate is when you come to join us, that for biochemistry grads, we have a full assay that is set up, like I say, from a goods receipt to a PCR test result at the end. We work with, and I'm sure this is something that George will probably have an understanding of, we currently work with ePCR. And I don't want to go into the full sort of scientific terms that come with that, but outside the lab environment, we do also have data scientist positions where we're always looking for people that want to apply that knowledge that they've learnt within their current course, but perhaps don't want to work in that lab environment anymore. They want something a little bit more cerebral, shall we say, in the IT sector.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. I mean, I suppose anybody looking to your organisation should look at your website at the kind of opportunities that exist and then match them up. But in terms of having, 800 staff, a projection of 1,800 staff, I mean, one of the questions here is about sales. Do you have sales and business development roles? And I suppose if I could just add to that, do you have other roles that you recruit? You talked about the science roles, but with so many people to look after, do you have other functions that you recruit into?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, we're run as a company we need everything from where the warehouse operatives up to directorship levels, and in between we have a full IT department supporting our LIMS function, which is the scientific reporting system, as well as supporting my laptop. Okay. We don't have a sales department because that's not really necessary. We're not in a position to be able to go out and sell this service. Rather, what we're doing is we're exploring the other assays that we might be able to add to the lines, and then taking that forward. That's a decision-making process that we can make ourselves.
Okay, but from what you're saying, that you are looking for other types of graduates in other roles to support the function of your laboratory. Yeah.
Yes, we've got a full HR suite here. We've got learning and development. The IT, such as, like I say, yeah, I mean, we don't do sales and marketing. They're the areas that we wouldn't be looking at.
Okay, fantastic. And there's quite a specific question here as well, which the answer to which might be to contact your organisation. What are some of the entry-level jobs a recent biochemistry master's graduate could apply for? Is that something you're able to answer, or?
Well, I mean, some of the entry-level jobs, I would suggest we start off with the LSAs, and they would be working in, like I say, the goods inwards function. So they might be receiving the samples and unpacking the samples and checking the samples aren't damaged, and then they would start. They're the start of the process. They would then move it into the lab environment where the testing process starts. But equally, we're taking on scientists and we're taking on senior scientists. So it depends on your level of background. Grads can join us as a senior scientist, and that is possible.
Great, brilliant. And again, apologies if I missed this, but where are you advertising roles? Are you advertising them with, so for example, universities, or where would we look?
Now that's slightly different compared to normal because we don't have a particular website function. We are still considered a startup. We are a startup business. You know, we've been going properly for about 6 months. So there's many areas we're still possibly finding our feet. We've still got people working around in hard hats, building various parts of the building. But I've forgotten your question. I'm ever so sorry.
It's about where would I look for the opportunities, and I mean, I work in a university, and it's whether you've reached out to university. I mean, you've had to do this very, very fast. But if I'm a graduate looking for opportunities, obviously, if I'm on the call, I can, and I'm interested, I'll be thinking, right, I'm going to have a look at your website and see what opportunities exist. But for other grads who aren't on this call, where would they be looking?
The best thing to do is if you were to perform a search function within Google for scientific roles within Leamington Spa, the advertising is all currently held by external agencies. So where we've got this managed service provider in a company called Medacs, you may want to go to their site. MEDACS is their name.
Dean, maybe I can assist with this as well. Sorry, I'm still here. But TT Laboratory Jobs is the website where you'll find the majority of our roles, be it support function and also scientific. That'd be a good port of call. But as Dean was mentioning, everything's gone through Medacs, who have additional agencies branching out who they utilise as well. But TT Laboratory Jobs is probably your best port of call to find out the latest jobs. Okay, so that's ttlaboratoryjobs.com.
Brilliant. That's great. That's really helpful. Again, if I could ask you both, if I could ask you both just have a look at the Q&A to see if there's any questions. Would that be okay to have a quick look and see if, after your session, just have a quick look and see if there's any that you can reply? But that's been great. I really appreciate you talking, and hopefully for people on the call that might be interested, I think there's a real kind of call to action, which is to have a look at the opportunities and to kind of look at applying. So
absolutely, yeah, we would welcome everybody.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, please really come speak to us.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thanks for your presentation. Thanks for sharing that, and good luck with recruiting the number of people that you need. But I'll be certainly going back to my university to talk with staff here about the opportunities that you've talked about. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Mark.
And now we're going to move on to our next speaker, who Dominique. Have I pronounced your name right, Dominique?
You have. You smashed it.
Good. Oh, first go. Okay, and Dominique, you're going to talk to us about Aviva and opportunities to move into the insurance sector. Yeah. So it's fantastic. Well, look, can I pass to you? And like the other presenters, there's opportunities for people to ask questions. So please ask questions as we're going along, and we'll get to those in a little while, Dominique. So thank you so much, and over to you.
Perfect. Thank you. Right, I'm going to do something a little bit different. So I work closely with the Careers Service who organise this call, and I'm one of the trustees for that service. And we had a discussion about doing something slightly different. So I'm going to talk a little bit more personally around what I've been doing. So my career, my view on insurance, why I think it's an interesting, exciting place to be. Stay on the call, bear with me, I promise it is. I'll give you some reflections on sort of what I've learned the last 10 years of my career and some advice. And I would definitely encourage questions because we'll leave some time at the end. So quick potted history of how I got here. When I left uni, I did a master's because I thought I was going to go and be a lecturer. I then decided that wasn't quite the right thing for me. So I did a lot of different jobs, saved up some money, went traveling. While I was there, had the epiphany that I should be an accountant because that was a very sensible thing to do. I came back and I got onto the program at Deloitte. And while I was waiting to start there, I got, by chance, just going through recruitment, I needed a job, and I got a job at Lloyd's of London as an assistant underwriter. I hasten to add, I didn't tell them that I was planning to go to Deloitte, but there we are. And that opened my eyes to a really interesting sector. I was mapping oil rigs, I was liaising with really large corporations about how they were going to implement big strategies, so big building sites, how they were caring for their employees, lots of really different and varied things, and I really enjoyed it. Now, the specific role wasn't quite the right one for me because there was a lot of photocopying. So I applied to the last grad scheme that was still open at that point in the year. And when I was successful in that application, I genuinely flipped a coin between that and Deloitte because this was a really unknown for me. And it's worked out really well. So I think insurance for me is particularly good because I would describe myself as being a specialist generalist. And that, again, is something I've learned about myself over the last 10 years. So when I finished my grad scheme, and I would say grad schemes are great if you like variety, particularly the rotational ones. If you're keen to get into sort of a sequential and technical role, if you're wanting to get into something that will build you immediately, in some ways it's not the right thing. The right thing might be to go into an entry-level role or into a mono-role grad scheme, so you don't rotate around. If you're not quite sure, like I wasn't, as you can tell by that story, rotational grad schemes are great, and grad schemes also offer you really good access to sponsorship, stakeholders, wider training, so it accelerates that process. It's things that will be available to you anyway if you come into an entry-level role, but it makes those more immediately available and easier to access. So they're definitely a pluses and minuses on both. When I finished my grad scheme, I became an underwriter. That's where I got my technical grounding. And I discovered there that I really enjoy doing deals, building relationships. I don't love the detail, actually. And being an underwriter, you needed to enjoy both of those things. So when an opportunity came up to launch a new initiative for our claims relationship function, and that was working with global companies on how we delivered our servicing, we wanted to transform that. And they wanted me to be part of that. And that was really exciting to me. And that's something I learned about myself then. I really enjoyed being too busy. And I've always been too busy ever since. I really enjoy having a lot of variety, not just within my role, but within my day. Every call I do is likely to be about something different. So if you're not, and a lot of ambiguity as well, that's something that isn't for everyone. I don't necessarily know what the next conversation is going to be, what the next challenge on that call is going to be. And I like that, I thrive on it. But I mentor people who hate that. And so we mentor, we talk about different roles that they can do. There's huge variety within insurance for all types of people. So when I had sort of done a couple of years of that role, I moved to Aviva, where I am now, to set up our mid-market client relationship proposition. Now, mid-market for us is customers with a turnover up to 100 million. We weren't serving something like that before. We started that from scratch. Great experience to do something new and different. And again, a bit of a chance, a bit of a leap of faith, but I'm glad I took it. Once we got that established, I moved into managing the global corporate and specialty client relationship management team. So that's, as you might guess, companies over 100 million turnover. So that can be quite significant businesses like Tesco's, sort of Marks and Spencer's, large construction firms and so on. And I really enjoy it. I love the people management piece. I love working with people more generally, and my role is a lot of facilitation. So problem solving, variety, and innovating, working with clients and internally to create different ideas. So What I would also say though, and this is a point I will come back to later, is what I do for a living I really enjoy, but it's never going to completely fulfill me. So throughout my career, I've also done a lot of volunteering. I've worked a lot in gender networks, in wider diversity and inclusion. I've done a lot of mentoring, and that sort of culminated with the fantastic opportunity to work as a trustee with a great team who are coordinating these events. So that's just some thoughts about the different type of my career, different type of career you can have within insurance. It can be non-linear, as mine has been, but you get a lot of opportunity if you're willing to sort of take some chances. Now, I was going to do a bit on insurance generally. I've got quite a lot to pack into half hour, so I'll move on. Fundamentally, insurance is taking the large uncertainty of risk and turning it into the smaller certainty of cost through a risk transfer mechanism. Kind of what does that mean day to day? Well, when you think about it, everything is insured. Your home is insured. The computer you're watching this on or the phone is likely to be insured. But the cables that bring the Wi-Fi that's streaming this to you, they're also insured. The road that those cables are under are insured. The satellites that have been shot up and the launch of that satellite to take the to allow the data for your phone to be streamed to you, those are also insured. The metal that those satellites are built out of is insured when it's being transported to the site. The factory where it was produced is insured. The mine where the metal was dug from is insured. And the whole supply chain piece that relates to that is insured. The pensions of the people who are working in all of those various businesses are insured. If you've had tea or coffee today, the tea is insured. You are insured if you have a reaction against that tea, because the company, if there's a fault with their product, will have cover for that so that you are protected. The supply chain, so that tea will have been grown in India, China, Sri Lanka, wherever it might be. The movement, the supply chain of that tea to here, that is insured. If that vessel sinks and it's full of tea, there's an issue for that business. In terms of how they can get it into stores reputationally, all of that piece. A good example, I always think, is Hurricane Katrina. That cost the insurance sector. That event was a while ago, so it's had a chance to develop, and we can have a greater certainty about the quantification of it. And that was about £48 billion that cost the insurance industry. But what does that mean? That means that homes that were destroyed were rebuilt. That means that vehicles that were lost were purchased so people could travel to work. That means that businesses who lost their site were able to relocate and rebuild and pay their staff while all of this horror was going on. So we can't stop that, but we can transfer some of that risk and mitigate and protect against some of the economic and social damage that these incidents cause. There was £8 billion of that 48 was offshore energy reparation. Now, for those companies to make sure that they can re-establish those sites so that they can continue to produce power and so on, it's really, really important for the whole of the rest of the release effort. So that's kind of some of the economic impacts. And I think when you look more widely at climate change and so on, we are seeing more hurricanes, we are seeing more fires, we are seeing people build in a lot more on earthquake zones as the population increases. Obviously, earthquakes aren't climate change related, but the way that we are populating the earth definitely is something that building on those fault lines will impact. So part of what we do as insurers is take all of the data. We have huge volumes of data because of the number of policies that we write, whether that's personal lines or whether that's mid-large global corporates. And we can consolidate that, and then we can challenge industry to say, okay, well, how are we building defensively? Some of it's really basic. If you're building in somewhere that has a propensity to flood, don't put your plug sockets on the floor. Put them 3-4 feet up on the wall, so that if that incident that is more likely in that area does happen, you are building a bit more defensively. What type of products are you putting into that building? What type of carpets are you putting into that building? How, when these incidents happen, can we think from a more climate-based perspective around how we repair those buildings? Can we salvage more? That's a big conversation in insurance at the moment. But the innovations that we will have by saying, how can we produce carpets that are more protected will have a knock-on effect on the amount of CO2 and so on that is produced through the production of these materials, because we are creating demand. There's a huge sort of insurance pound, if you like, that we have it in our power to influence. And also with Aviva, we have a big Aviva investments arm, and a lot of insurers will have quite big life and pension arms. So we have influence there from a sort of ESG, so environmental, social governance perspective. How are we utilising that? How are we making that investment on behalf of the people who've entrusted those funds to us? You know, Aviva has a goal of being net zero by 2040, sorry. And a huge part of that actually isn't the more familiar areas of insurance. It's going to be driven by how we invest and how we change the way that we invest. So there's a real spread of different areas you can be involved in. Health and safety culture, again, lots of roles within that space. You know, when you walk past a building site, you know, the reason that the paths where everyone walks are mapped out, that they're wearing hard hats, that they're wearing safety gear, you know, that you have your slip and trip signs, whatever it might be in supermarkets, are to protect people. Now that has a cost driver, absolutely, because we're trying to mitigate against the risk of claims, but it is also just the right thing to do to make sure that people are as safe as possible and that property is as safe as possible. Now, there's a lot of different types of role within insurance. I've touched on underwriters. So those are the people who will ultimately price the risk and negotiate deals. But you've got actuary, which is a huge function, who will review data. Now, they might review it on a portfolio basis. I call some of them the masters of disaster. So they're looking at flood mapping. They're looking at all of these different claims and impacts to see where incidents are most likely to happen. So we can advise clients, you know, we maybe advise them on where to purchase sites for building on, what they need to be doing if they do purchase sites in that area to mitigate against things. Do they need a sink away on another site? That type of thing. But the actuaries are the people who provide that data and analysis. For me, for some of my larger clients, I might just get them to do an analysis of the fleet. If you've got 20,000 vehicles, actually, you need an actuary really to understand the trends within that. We also have claims adjusters, so the other end. So when a claims happens, a claims adjuster, it can be, you know, relatively straightforward. If you've crashed your car, someone there needs to work out what the cost of that damage is. But equally, if your dam in Peru has collapsed, someone needs to work out what the cost of that is as well. There needs to be someone who's ultimately accountable for working with the different experts that you'll need. You'll have engineering reports, legal reports, you'll have a lot of client dialogue. They're a huge, you know, it's a real project manager type role, claims. It's absolutely fascinating when you think about it. If you want to be out and about all the time, all of these roles, I would say, are very interactive, particularly underwriting and large claims or senior claims adjuster type role. But we also have loss adjusters and risk engineers. Now these are on the road. So if you want to be out and about all the time, a loss adjuster is someone who goes to a site and does the inspection. They'll often feed back then to the claims adjusters, so they'll provide a report having been onto site. You also have your risk engineers. That's more at the proactive end. So we'll go and undertake surveys with our larger clients to say, right, what are you doing from a risk management perspective, health and safety perspective? Let's walk around your site, whether that's, you know, it might be a large office block, it might be a construction site, it could be absolutely anything. Warehouses, that's a big one. Distribution centres. So if you think of the DPDs of this world, just going and looking, what are you doing? What are you saying you're doing? What are you actually doing? And what are other areas where we can look for improvements, again, to mitigate that risks? You've got brokers. Broking is a brilliant role. You are absolutely in the middle of what a client is doing. So whether that's advising your client as they come to you and say, look, we're looking to buy this business. What do you think? What insurances do we need? How can we manage that risk? How can we make sure we're compliant? There's a lot of regulatory work there. You're also then doing that deal, taking it into the market. If you've got, you know, a £1 billion oil platform that you're building, no insurer is insuring all of that. It's probably 1 or 2%. Some people are taking, you know, 0.5%, and that's a huge deal to put together. So we call it the subscription market. Everyone takes a subscription line on that. And increasingly, data scientists, corporate and social responsibility, as I've previously mentioned, that is an increasingly big part of what we're doing. So the sort of the digital piece as well. making things more accessible from a digital perspective. So in terms of the Aviva specific programs, and I will be sending Julia, who's coordinating this, a couple of slides that she can send around afterwards that just have some of the specifics of our particular programs. But we have a graduate leadership program, graduate actuarial program, accountancy program, technology program, Aviva Investors, who are, as I say, our property investment arm. They also have a separate program, so there's quite a few going on. We also have a lot of apprenticeship and many entry-level roles as well. So I think the grad programs are there, but as I say, if you're keen to just get into a team and just go, there are a lot of entry-level roles within insurance where you can start to build out, and there's a lot of support there generally to give you, as I said, I mentioned before, you know, that stakeholder management piece, that sponsorship, access, training, and so on. So that is there, and all large insurers, loss adjusters, broking houses have these schemes. They will be on the websites. We are communicating with universities. There are a lot of different opportunities out there in the insurance sector for, as I say, grad scheme and entry level and apprentices and so on. So please do have a review, and as I say, I will send that through to Julia as well. And I'm just going to do a few minutes on my advice, and then I will ask Mark to ask me some questions, which hopefully everyone is putting a few on here. So and I would say for me, I'm open to anything. It doesn't have to be just insurance specific. So my advice quickly, I've got 7 of these because 10 felt like too many, but I couldn't quite make it 5. So firstly, and this is really important, don't put too much pressure on your decisions at this stage, or indeed at any stage. You won't, as I mentioned earlier, you're not going to fulfill every part of you in what you do now, and it's not going to define you forever. It feels incredibly important because it's the first role, it's the first position, but the key thing to remember, it's the first, and if it doesn't work, that's okay. You'll do something else. Whatever you do, you'll be great. So don't put too much pressure on yourself now. Secondly, take every opportunity to learn about yourself. The more you understand yourself, and that's kind of what I was trying to highlight with my sort of career journey, the more you think about what you're doing and you learn about yourself, whether that's through a course, whether that's through a mentor, however that you might access that information, try and understand what you love, what you like, what you dislike, what you hate, and try and make a role that blends more towards that end of the spectrum. You're always going to have to do some stuff you hate. I just had to do my online training, but you know, that's going to be part of it. Ask questions and listen to advice. Remember that not all words are created equal. Apply it to yourself and think about how you might utilize whatever advice that is that people are giving you. Don't look to people to make decisions for you, but take their advice and consider it and how it applies to your life. Take chances. As I say, I've kind of jumped around in different roles. I've moved to different companies. For me, that's been really fulfilling. And this is a piece of advice just to sort of reflect on longer term, but if you're consistently unhappy doing something, leave. I've mentored quite a few people who have done something for a number of years and they've worked with their managers to try and improve it, or they've tried to reshape the role around what they actually like doing, or whatever it might be. Don't be afraid if you're not enjoying something to leave. It's not a failure, it's a choice. Your leader and your immediate team are really important to you. I'm a massive advocate of this. I would never work for someone I didn't like or didn't inspire me, because you spend too much time with them. And lastly, setbacks will happen. For me, I was very ill when I was a child. I was housebound for like 4.5 years, missed loads of school, didn't get my GCSEs. And that then left me with a legacy of tendinopathy, which I kind of managed till I was about 27 when it turned into a chronic pain condition. And it damaged my back. I had huge spasms. I was in a neck brace, arm braces, and it completely changed how I could work. First, I had to work through the pain and working out what that meant for me in terms of physio and so on. But also, you'll notice I've got a snazzy microphone. That's because I do all of my work through my voice. So that's how I send all of my emails. That's how I write all of my documents. That's how I have to interact. And it's a really different way of working. It's one of the reasons that I actually exited underwriting a year earlier than I had originally planned to, because it just didn't work with those systems. And it took a while to work out what I needed. And I guess that's a point for anyone who's experiencing a challenge, whether for me, like with me, it's disability, but it could be that, you know, you've lost someone or you're having some different challenges in your life. Work out what works for you, recognize it will take some time, be kind to yourself, but setbacks are just setbacks. You know, however many years on, 5 years on, I'm absolutely fine. I know how this works for me, and I can advocate. And don't panic as well, because when something goes wrong with you, particularly physically or emotionally, people go to you, what do you need? Well, I didn't know. I didn't know about this microphone back then. I didn't know about the software that I use now. I had to work that out, and it took time, and it was really hard. But now, if I change roles, I've got a list. So you will get there. And that's my last piece of advice, Mark, if there are any questions.
That was fantastic. And I'm so glad that, you know, a lot of what you've talked about is, you know, accidental decisions or finding your way. And, you know, some people do come to university with a really clear idea what they want to do. And they work in a kind of, I'll do this and then I'll do this and then I'll do this. A lot of people in universities, and I imagine a lot of people on our call today, absolutely have, you know, don't really know what it is they want to do, don't really know what organisations do, don't know what the opportunities are. And a lot of times people find themselves in an area that actually suits them, or they find themselves in an area and they work out what doesn't suit them, and they, as you said, you move on. You know, it's not a decision you're making for the rest of your life. It's a decision that you're making for now. And actually, once you're in an organisation, you can find out, I think you find out partly what your organisation does, but also what other organisations do, and you can move around. So I really appreciated what you said there and the kind of advice. And I think for everybody listening today, I think it's really good advice. You know, you're making a decision for now, and you might change your mind in 18 months or a year or less, but, you know, do something different.
Okay. And you'll learn from it. Whatever you do, you learn. Exactly.
So thank you so much. Now we have got some specific questions, but I just wanted to say, as I was listening to you, I was thinking this is great advice for everybody about, you know, career steps. So I'm just looking at this Q&A. For somebody wanting to work with Aviva, what are the opportunities for international students and who want to stay in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, those opportunities are absolutely there, and I'd say this is across the wider insurance sector as well. On my grad scheme, this was 10 years ago now, but you know, we had someone from Colombia, we had someone from Spain. So apply to these, you will need to work through with them around visa processes and so on. But yeah, the opportunities are absolutely there. It's just a discussion that will be had as part of the process.
And I've promised to put in the chat something about visas, so I will do that. Question: do you need to be thick-skinned to work in insurance?
Oh, that is such a good question. Do you know what? I think any role where, so you don't have to be, because it depends on the role that you do. But I would say any role where you're interacting with other people all the time, it really doesn't hurt to be able to not take them too seriously. So people have different ways of communicating, and understanding how you can challenge that effectively if you feel that it's being inappropriate. Having mentors and things that you trust to have a conversation if you feel that something has been that you're uncomfortable with, and talk through how you can respond to it. I would always say never react in the moment. Always have a conversation afterwards. Be the bigger person in that moment. But yeah, I would say you don't have to have one. There's a lot of lovely people in insurance, but I think any industry where you are, and sometimes it can be quite difficult conversations. My role particularly, I might be telling someone that, you know, they think something's covered and it's not. Now that can be really impactful for that individual. They're going to have to communicate that there's a £2 million claim that the board thinks is covered and it isn't. And then, but it's how you manage that communication. So I would say, no, you don't need a desperately thick skin, but if you want to work with people, it's good to have an awareness of what you can tolerate.
That's great, thank you. Now this is quite a specific question, but I think it would apply to lots of people, applying not just to Aviva, but generally. So somebody on here has applied for the change management graduate scheme at Aviva. Telephone interview before Christmas, and that, well, mind you, it's only January, February actually, hasn't heard yet. Does that mean that they've not progressed, or do you think it's normal for this kind of time?
So I know this is the busiest time for the team, because I was talking to them ahead of this call. They should hear, even if they haven't been successful, they will hear as well as if they have been successful. So I will speak to the team about the anticipated timeline. At the moment, maybe there are some delays on it, but yes, you will hear, I guess is the short answer.
Okay, that's great, thank you. And you'll be seeing the Q&A, the person who asked that question, so maybe that's something there. And what would you say to someone who is looking to get into the insurance industry, having worked in a different industry with a non-relevant degree?
I would say that insurance welcomes all comers. My degree is literature, my master's was postmodern fiction. That's what I thought I was going to do with my life when I was leaving uni. There are people with geography, biochemistry, I know people from all backgrounds, so it's absolutely not an inhibitor. For me, it's about understanding the skills that you've taken from that degree and that previous role and how you articulate them. I worked with someone who was in the military before, I worked with someone who was doing marketing in a different company. It's absolutely not an inhibitor, particularly for, I don't know sort of where this person is age-wise, but for, you know, if you're happy to come in entry level, if you're happy to look at grad schemes, it's absolutely not a problem.
Okay, that's great. And I think it would be about, you know, if you're interested, talking to the recruiting team about your specific circumstances and what
talking to the recruiting team. And what I would say as well is, if you know, if you happen to know anyone in your wider circle, or you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn even, talking to people in the sector as well, people are often very generous with their advice and encouragement.
Brilliant. And I've got a question here, and then we'll need to finish, but it's a really good question, and this isn't just about applying to Aviva, but this is about applying for any job. It's a question that says, I have a disability. Should I disclose this in my interview, or do you think this would count against me? And I suppose the other question is, when do you disclose a disability?
Yeah. You know, I think it's really difficult, that, and it's a really personal choice. And I know that when I moved to Aviva, as I explained, I had that situation that really, really stressed me out about when I should do that. I was very nervous. For me, I probably wouldn't disclose it at the first one, but that's only because you only have a certain amount of time with those people. I disclosed it as part of the second round process, but actually you're under no pressure to disclose it at all until you're offered a position. So it depends how comfortable you are in the process and the people that you're talking to. As it happens, the manager who I had my first round with, I got on really, really well with, so I felt comfortable in my second round. It felt like it was going the right way, and I was like, look, I just want to flag this. Yeah. But I already knew that it wouldn't be a problem because I'd got a feel for that person, and actually if it had been, I wouldn't have wanted to work with them anyway. But for me, you absolutely do not have to disclose that at your first round. You don't have to disclose it second, third, fourth. You can disclose it after an offer has been made. There is no imperative on you to do that. I think it's how comfortable you are with sharing that. But I think going back to the sort of earlier point I was making on the in my advice section, the more you can do to understand what you might need, so you can make, and that's my sort of bigger piece actually, is the clearer you can be as part of the onboarding process on what you need to help you do that role and to help you thrive in that role. It's better to do that up front so that you start with everything set and ready to go. And companies are pretty good, big corporations, but every person is different. Yeah. So try and understand that as much as you can. But yeah, you're under no duress to share it. And as a hiring manager, it absolutely wouldn't bother me, and I know very few who it would. So whenever you're comfortable in the process is the short answer.
Great, thank you so much. I mean, the other thing I could add to that is if you have a disability, or if you're thinking about anything that you would want to disclose or thinking about disclosing in a recruitment situation, talk to your university career service, because that's the kind of advice a lot of students ask us for, and it is really personal, but being confident about what to disclose and when is something we talk to a lot of students about. So please do ask, and we'll help you as much as we can. Dominique, that was fantastic. A couple of questions for you to look at in the Q&A, if that's all right, and just to if you could just answer those in the chat, that'd be fantastic. But can I just say thank you for your presentation? Really interesting, and I think there's a few people wanting to connect with you, if that's all right, on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's fine. Reach out.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, and thanks for adding to today. No. Okay, so we're going to move to our next speaker, and this is well, it kind of links to something I was just saying about talking to your university career service. Jonathan Eastwood, London Met, the Careers and Employability Service Manager at London Met University, is going to talk with us. Hi, Jonathan. Is going to talk with us about the kind of support that university career services provide. And I think what you'll find is, I don't know, Jonathan, if you can talk about specifically about London Met, but I think one of the key things I would say is your university career service is still there to support you, and whatever Jonathan says is going to be the case at universities around the country. So Jonathan, thank you so much, and I'll pass to you.
Absolutely, thank you, Mark. And yeah, I felt a large amount of pressure being a representative of one out of over 100 university career services, talking about what university career services can do to support you. So I'm going to be looking at things from not really from a London Met perspective, but talking about generally what university career services can do. Then it may vary slightly from institution to institution, but by and large there is a huge amount of support available to you from all of your respective institutions. And I think it was a lovely segue in from the end of Dominic and Mark's discussion there about specifically looking at how career services can help you with things like disclosing disabilities. And actually, just before Mark had mentioned it, it encouraged me to swap my slide order around and actually move this advice and guidance section first. So and with that really important thing to say, your university is still here to support you. Often there's a disconnect that as soon as students finish that and they disassociate so quickly with that university identity and forget about the wealth of support. The majority of universities will still support you for up to 3 years after graduating, and that will vary from institution to institution, but I would be very surprised if any supported you for any less than 15 to 18 months after graduating. And one of the, I think the benefits of COVID has been an incredibly tough time for the entire country, world, and it's created lots of change within lots of different sectors. And actually one positive element, I think, for us as career services, it forced us to do lots more things online. And for my service, it actually really benefited our connections with graduates. You didn't have to, particularly graduates who'd moved back home and were no longer close to university. It allowed us to maintain those relationships. So I'm going to talk a little bit about one-to-one support, and this will be on a whole manner of things. It might be that you've been searching for work as a biomedical, you've graduated from biomedical science, you've struggled to find those type of opportunities now, or you're not being successful with your applications. You can book a one-to-one with a careers advisor who will help you perhaps show you what you're doing wrong in those applications, and or help you reflect on transferable skills and show you the vast range of other sectors available to you. I'm sure I heard it from Dominic, and I'm sure you've heard it from other speakers already this morning, that the lots of graduate career options aren't dependent on what you studied at an undergraduate level, and it's those transferable skills, and appointments with a careers advisor will help you reflect on those and articulate them. So that's from a one-to-one support. And it's really important to say lots of universities will have subject or course school level specialists in different areas, but there'll also be specialists often perhaps in disability or for international students, helping you with those difficult decisions around disclosure, around finding tier 4 or negotiating the post-study visa route. There are lots of specialisms within university career services that can help you not go through these things by yourself. And also in the last few years, as well as the support from the people from our teams, there is a huge array of online resources. Lots of institutions have some really amazing packages. This is just a screenshot from the careers portal we use at London Metropolitan University, and I know this particular one is used by I think about 60 other institutions. Not everyone will have something exactly like this, but all universities will have some type of online resources. This one has an AI-driven CV checker that within 10 seconds will run your CV through the type of initial checks that lots of large graduate scheme recruiters will. It gives you that instant feedback, allows you to make some changes, and then submit it for one of our careers advisors to check. There are also similar tools for interviews, for those pesky psychometric tests, the ability and aptitude ones, but also going back to the end of Dominique's talk where she spoke about that self-awareness, actually having there are tools around identifying your strengths, your work motivations, and getting and understanding what type of environment will suit you best. All these type of things exist on the online resources that lots of universities offer. And as well as these one-to-one support, the things that you can offer, the things that you can access at your own pace online, there are a whole range of workshops and webinars. Lots of them will take place online now as webinars, and will allow you to access from wherever you are in the country. And again, over the past 18 months, lots of universities have been creating more Netflix-style offers of both recorded content and other content that you can access at your own pace, because it's really important to say you might be in a completely different place to your friend who got a graduate job straight away or knew exactly what they wanted to do. As universities, we become aware of this, that it's not one size fits all, and we put information in a way that allows you to access it when you need it. So I think the key part that I want you to think about of what your university can offer you is around building these employer relationships. So I'm sure lots of you are using websites like Prospects, GradCracker, Milkround, and even Indeed and Read, more general ones that aren't university, that aren't graduate specific. I would encourage you all to acquaint yourself with your university job sites. These will often have institution specific jobs, geographically relevant opportunities. Your career service will have relationships with recruiters relevant to your course, to your discipline, but also that geographic area. But actually, universities in the last few years have become really aware of where their students are coming from. So and they'll do research into other parts of the country where they know they have lots of students come from, because they know that's where you return to for your graduate jobs, and they'll look there may be jobs in those areas. But the university job boards are really important because they will have different opportunities on than your prospects, where you might have particularly if you're looking for SMEs, the small to medium sized enterprises that don't have the same budgets, don't have the same reaches and the same wide requirements, so they don't need to advertise on the larger job boards, because often university job sites are completely free to advertise on, or cheaper than large ones, so they have a different type of jobs. But particularly, and that the knowledge of relevant employers, and particularly ring fence and specific relationships. Lots of your universities will have these relationships or knowledge of the opportunities with different employers. Some universities will work closely with large employers to amend part of the recruitment process, perhaps that their students are falling down on, or indeed for some employers, there might be ring-fenced opportunities that are specific to that institution. Some universities will have specific graduate internships that are designed for students who have graduated in that year to go and gain experience in a different area. If you're not in touch with your university, you're missing out on all these potential opportunities, and there will be similar relationships, but also events and activities aimed at diversity and different underrepresented groups in university. And the final one that I put down there was actually working for your universities. Universities in themselves are large employers, and lots of universities have worked hard to create opportunities for their own students to join as employees. So if you felt a particularly strong connection to your university, do seek that out as a potential opportunity. When you graduate university, it's easy to feel like you don't have a network, and particularly if you're the first person in your family, or you don't know anyone else who studied architecture, or you've moved to a completely new area, you can feel like you have no network. But just by being a graduate of your university, you're part of a large alumni network. So this is just a screenshot of the London Metropolitan University alumni page, where there are 150,000 alumni on LinkedIn who studied at London Metropolitan University. If I was a marketing graduate, I might search the word marketing in there and have a look and just learn from, in the first instance, learn from the type of employers, the type of jobs that alumni have gone into. And if I see one that's really interesting, has had a great career, I might put them a message and ask them for some, and just ask them a question. I'm probably not messaging saying, hey, give me a job, but I'm saying, you've had a fascinating, we study the same course, you've had an amazing career, have you got any advice for me? And just reaching out and giving that level of proactivity will create opportunities for yourself rather than waiting for things to get advertised. But as well as on LinkedIn, where you can access these networks yourself, your university will likely have some relationships. Often university have mentoring programs or alumni events that aim to help you connect with these alumni, or indeed there might be academics, people in your career service that can put you in touch with relevant alumni. So please do tap into those services. And just lots of universities will run specific graduate support packages. Some of you may have had phone calls and emails in the last few months of your career services or wider university reaching out to you to offer you support, to see how you're doing. So it's really important that you give your career service up-to-date communication details for you, contact details, phone number and email address, and do answer the phone please when we call you. We are calling to help. And by institution at the moment, we're offering targeted coaching to help students get jobs ready, as well as we have some specific online learning pathways, events and opportunities. And as I said earlier, graduates have access to our career service for 3 years, and we're really proactive for the first 18 months of graduation to help and support you. And other universities will be similar, but again, I must caveat, I can't speak for all universities. There will be lots of differences, but that's a general rule. So yeah, just the final thoughts and reflections from me. Your university will have unique relationships and opportunities. Read your emails and update your contact information. If you have been making applications without success, reach out to your university, book an appointment with an advisor, and they can talk things through with you. An important thing, if you don't know how to get in touch with your university career service, go on the website. If you just Google your university name and your career service, they're normally quite easy to find. And just my final thought is that the vast majority of universities and university career service offer a wealth of support and opportunity. It's down to you to access it and to take advantage of it. So thank you. That was the end of my presentation. And I believe might have some questions.
Jonathan, that was fantastic. I think a very clear call to action there, isn't it? If you've graduated and you're not sure what you're doing, contact your career service at your university. We're all here to help, and that's what we're here for. And I think people, I still remember leaving. I mean, it's a long time ago now, but I still remember leaving university. And thinking, who wants a psychology graduate?
Yeah.
And thinking, I've got no idea what to do next. That's what the career service is there. And I suppose, being so online now, it makes it so much easier, doesn't it? Wherever you are in the country, you can organise an online appointment. however you want to talk to somebody, or by email. And what you talked about there in terms of CV support and stuff like that, you know, we have AI CV support as well, and people who look at CVs, but a lot of the students say they really like the opportunity to plug in their CV and improve it by doing that. There was a question in here about there's a couple of, oh my gosh, there's a few questions arriving now, so I just want to make sure we answer those. There is a question, I think this will vary between universities, but there's a question about, would universities support with only careers or with other things such as mental health, for example?
It's very interesting. So I only know, I can only talk from this from my institution, and it's quite, when it comes to mental health referrals, it's really hard. We had it recently with we had a recent situation where I had to speak to our student services team, and they were able to direct to other services. But once you graduate with things like that, there isn't exactly the same service as your student. But yeah, I would only talk from our university's point of view there. And but regardless, I think we were able to signpost and help and support that student, that person, that graduate. So yeah, do reach out, and I think we're caring people by definition. I hope.
Absolutely, and it might be a signpost, and it might be that somebody's moved to another part of the country, and you know, it's anyway, reach out if you're not sure. Reach out to your student health and wellbeing service, or whatever it's called in your university. Again, if you put in something like wellbeing into your university search, you'll find the team that can support you. Question here about alumni networks, Jonathan, which is about regarding alumni networks. It appears to be the LinkedIn site, but are there any sites, ideas to connect to alumni?
Some universities, I don't know, Mark, from your experience, we don't have a specific site to connect with our alumni, but we have a back-end contact detail that we can draw information out of, and lots of universities have that type of system. But I think just generally, LinkedIn is amazing for that, and not just alumni. You can use that for anything. I would say LinkedIn has about just under 700 million members. Of that, half of them don't have a LinkedIn account but don't really use it. So what I would expect you to say when you're reaching out to these people on LinkedIn, if you send 10 messages, expect to get one reply, and there is a quantity quality balance to be had there. But please, if you're reaching out to alumni on LinkedIn and you're not getting replies from a lot of them, don't be disheartened. It's just the way that lots of people use LinkedIn.
And that's good advice. And I think there are some universities that have a very specific site that connects to their graduates, their alumni. There are some that don't. We actually have one at the moment at Newcastle University, but actually, as you're saying, Jonathan, there's so many more people on LinkedIn. So what we actually prefer to do is help people to use LinkedIn effectively, because I know myself, and I'm sure it's the same for you. If you just get a request, you know, please connect, you think, well, why do you want to connect with me? But if somebody sends you a question or a comment or you know, a reason, then you can understand it, you know, a lot more. And so putting some time into thinking about who you want to connect with and why will help you to overcome that challenge. As a little aside, I'm actually a big football fan, and our manager was sacked, like most football clubs, and I looked him up on LinkedIn because I thought he'd done quite a good job. And I sent him a message, and I kind of thought about what I wanted to say, and I sent a message, and he replied. And I thought, you know, that's just shows that if you think about your message, you won't always get a reply. But if you think about your message and why you want to connect, people will come back to you. But if you just send a kind of, can I connect with you, you're less likely to get a connection. Jonathan, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. Clear call to action. Contact your career service, get support, and don't feel you're on your own. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate your time. And,
thank you, Mark.
So we're on to our last presentation now, and I'm really pleased to be able to say we're joined by a couple of recent graduates who are going to share their experience of graduating out into the world of work, leaving universities, the kind of things that they've done. So we're joined by Grace Piggott from Liverpool University and Callie Mulligan from Exeter University, and they're going to share their experiences going out into the graduate job market, how they've used their university career service and how they're getting on. Oh, Grace, nice to see you. And I think, are we going to be joined? Ah, there we go. There's Callie as well. So, Grace, you're going to speak first. You were first on, so you have to just talk about where you're at and how you're getting on and advice for people who are kind of connecting into the call today. Oh, so over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. So, hi everyone, I'm Grace. I graduated with a degree in law from the University of Liverpool in 2020, which was right during the middle of the first COVID-19 lockdown. So I'm currently working as a graduate intern within the Careers and Employability Service at the University of Liverpool, working in the student success team. So I work on a range of different projects within the university, such as working with our peer mentors to offer support to the wider student population, working with our UP students who are from underrepresented backgrounds, and supporting with other events around campus. I'm also due to start a training contract to become a solicitor with Deloitte Piper in Liverpool in August. So just a little bit of background about my experience. So as I think most university students do, I started university with a vague idea of what I wanted to go into when I graduated, but not a real idea of how I was actually going to get there. I spent first year focusing really on just settling into university, getting to grips with my degree, things like that. And I think I really underestimated the value of things like work experience, and I didn't really know how to get work experience. But it was a real point of worry and anxiety for me. I think you find that with a lot of students, that feeling like you might be missing out on something, or you don't have the same level of experience as other students. And so that's really what I felt in my first year of university. And I did see how competitive the field I wanted to go into was, and I felt unsure how I was going to achieve what I wanted to, and even really if I was a kind of person who was capable of achieving that. However, moving into my second year of university, I guess that panic started to kick in of getting a graduate role. So I started to attend more events at my university career service, such as like networking events, and general like information sessions and things like that. And I did begin to get a much clearer idea of what kind of opportunities were out there. And it also made me more aware of just the career service in general at the University of Liverpool. So when I saw an opportunity advertised to become a career coach at the Career Studio, I applied, and luckily I got that position. And it was really one of the best decisions I made. So I was taught everything from how to create a strong CV, interview techniques, psychometric testing, assessment centres, so all of this new stuff that was really, really useful to me as I was going through my own journey to get a graduate role. And not only this, but I got that extra support and that guidance from the wider careers and employability team, which is available to all students, but I was more aware of it at that point. And that was really invaluable to me when developing my own skills. So working at the studio really did open my eyes to the range of opportunities out there. I feel like as a student it's so easy to miss how many opportunities there are available that you can apply for. But working at the studio, I was just really aware of what was going on. And I was also just encouraged just to go for it if I found something interesting. A big barrier that I feel like I faced was my own self-confidence, and the knowledge that I developed as a career coach at the Career Studio helped just build that foundation of confidence. It really carried me forward to my own applications. I think simply just like knowing what you need to do, so knowing what the recruitment process is going to be like, and knowing how to tackle an interview and use your STAR technique and things like that, just gives you that confidence that you need to be able to go into an interview and feel like you know what you're doing. And also the extra personal support I gained, so people like my manager at the Career Studio and the wider careers and employability team really just spurred me on to reach for my goals and be proud of what makes me unique and my own attributes. So I guess if I could give one piece of advice to any students out there, it's just to go for every opportunity that you like the look of. Don't let lack of confidence or self-belief hold you back, because if you go for things, you never know what you're going to achieve, and you really will surprise yourself as to how much you can get. So I guess moving on to applying for vacation schemes and training contracts at law firms. The Career Studio and the wider Careers and Employability team were really supportive to me in doing that. So things like relying on the other career coaches at my university careers service to check over applications was really useful. So just getting that second pair of eyes just to look over your applications and find those pesky spelling mistakes and things like that was so useful. And also, again, the wider Careers and Employability staff. I got insight into how to handle applications, what the application process was like, and how to handle assessment centres. So all that was really useful. So then when we went into lockdown towards the end of my final year at university, and I think like lots of other students out there, graduate plans were just thrown into complete uncertainty. I had vacation schemes with law firms that were moved virtually, exams all moved online, and just a general sense of uncertainty as to what was going to happen next, really. And I think a crucial skill at that time was perseverance. And that's something the Careers and Employability team always really emphasises, perseverance and resilience when approaching graduate careers. So that's something I learned throughout the recruitment process, and another piece of advice that I would give to any students out there is just try not to let setbacks or rejections get you down, or don't take them too personally, because everyone faces rejections, and it's really easy to look through things like LinkedIn and see all those celebratory posts, and you never see the posts about where people have been rejected, but just have to remember that every person who's had a success has faced a rejection, and try and remember that those rejections are experiences and they're lessons learned, and they're the lessons that are going to eventually help you in getting that dream graduate role that you're going to achieve. So then, throughout the pandemic, the studio continued to post opportunities and offer that continued support and guidance. And I really relied on that support and the reassurance of the studio at that time to really keep me positive, and to make that adjustment to the virtual recruitment process. So things like how to maintain virtual eye contact, how to present yourself in a video interview, and how to work like across a group, across a virtual platform, which is something that we never had to do before, which seems like natural to us now, but it wasn't at the time. So I did seek that wider support from the Careers and Employability team members, and they really helped me with all of those things and more. So overall, I always say that taking my role as a career coach within the Career Studio was one of the best decisions I made, just because it just really helped me realise how much support you can gain from the Careers and Employability services at your university. So I encourage all students just to reach out to your careers services, even if you just step through the doors and ask what they can offer. You don't have to come with a perfectly written CV or the perfect application. You just have to go in and ask the question as to what they can offer you, and that first step is just going to make all the difference. So I think I'm passing on to Callie now.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Grace. That was really good. Callie, let's go to you, and then I'm sure we're going to have some questions for you both. So Callie, tell us about yourself.
Hiya. Yeah, thanks, Grace. That was really interesting. So hi, I'm Callie. Just to kind of introduce myself, I graduated this summer, the summer of 2021, with a BA in history from the University of Exeter. And I probably had a similar experience to many of you, where my first half of university was very normal and active and busy, and then the second half was completely impacted by the pandemic, and my course and my part-time job fully went online. So my social life took a bit of a hit in third year, but that meant that I ended up applying for kind of a lot of jobs, which was a really fun way to spend my time. So for my second and third years at uni, I worked part-time in my university's career service, which was kind of invaluable for seeing all the first-hand all the events and sessions that were being put on for students as well as graduates. And I really made sure that I kind of utilised my time to the full when it came to start applying for jobs. I kind of had all this knowledge. So there were things kind of like webinars, speakers from employers, careers fairs. I found something that was very useful for me was kind of CV templates and also application reviews. And I made sure I did these for the applications I was really keenest on. Just getting an extra pair of eyes on it was kind of invaluable in that sense. I had friends who used mentoring schemes, which were really useful for networking and getting contacts. I had a friend who was really interested in the charity sector, and now he works in the charity sector, and it's because of the information he got through that mentoring scheme. So from my perspective, all of these kind of services are available for graduates as well as students. So as kind of has already been covered, I really recommend kind of checking that out. So just kind of an update job-wise. In October, I started on my first year posting in the civil service fast stream. So I'm currently posted to the Department for Health and Social Care as a policy advisor. So I currently work on kind of face covering, face mask legislation. So over November and December, I helped kind of with all that drafting the legislation and contributing to debates in the Houses of Lords and Commons. It's really enjoyable, and it's weird getting on a bus and seeing people wearing face masks and like knowing that kind of you had a bit of a role with that. It's kind of like a very tangible kind of image of the policy. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. But for the fast stream, there was a very lengthy application process, and there were lots of rounds that kind of test you on different things. So I thought I'd just kind of share a few of my reflections from this application process. So I thought the first thing I'd talk about is kind of tailoring your strengths in an application process. So obviously I can't speak for all roles here because many jobs and internships seem to kind of demand 5 years experience from recent graduates. And I think that's kind of very kind of demanding of them. But from the majority of the schemes that I applied to in my third year, they weren't testing that you'd done this exact role in the past, but they were looking for evidence that you had the right skills and attitude to learn on the job, and development was kind of a key point that they were really stressing. So I think for my applications, it was a process of thinking about all the roles I'd held in the past and thinking of what experiences I'd learned from these that kind of fulfilled the skills that these jobs were looking for. So a lot of my kind of previous roles weren't like prestigious internships, but it was like a part-time role I'd had at uni, an events manager position I held in a society, summer jobs, and kind of work experience that I'd done. So I think really these jobs are looking for evidence that you're keen to learn and you have the skills that they're looking for. Things like kind of thinking quickly under pressure or communication. So it's really, for a case for me, it was using relevant examples from my past roles to kind of really show off and demonstrate each skill in this application process. Something else that Grace touched on that I wanted to talk about was kind of learning from rejection. Because I've been rejected from so many kind of internships and work experiences, and initially it really hurts, especially if you kind of invested all this kind of time and effort into an application. I think the most important thing you can do is learn from it and kind of reframe what you think about your application and to bounce back from it. So I think it's hard when lots of these jobs don't seem to give you feedback because they say they've had too many applications. So I think in that case, you can either ask for the feedback, but if you've not been given that, you already have the resource of the answers that you've already written. So kind of take some time, I'd say, and then look critically back at these answers and see what you could do to improve on them. And kind of making sure you're mirroring the language that the applications are asking for to hit the buzzwords. And I say this would be a good point to really kind of make use of your career service, book an appointment to go through your application to see what could be improved. Similarly, if you're struggling with kind of communications and interviews or assessment centres, booking in a session to practice interview techniques can be great. So basically, for the next time you go to apply for something, you will have had that experience and already know the process and the knowledge of how you can improve for the next time. Yeah, and so also Grace touched on this, but I think something that's quite unique for students at the moment and for graduates is applying to jobs completely online because of the pandemic. And for me, this was both kind of a blessing and a curse. On the negative side, assessment centres like to do this thing, as you may probably already know, that where they put you in group assessments and you're working with a group to kind of come to an agreed outcome to test your communication and teamwork skills, which as hard as it is, but with everyone on Teams and Zoom unable to kind of pick up on social cues or know who's about to speak, for me, this is something I found very challenging that I had to do a few times. But I think it reduced my stress in other ways working online, because rather than like traveling across a country for an assessment centre where you're kind of in an alien environment, you have the comfort of your surroundings and you can kind of exercise control over your environment. So it feels like you're doing kind of the interview or the assessment centre more on your terms. And similarly, all of the jobs should ensure that you have the necessary adjustments in place when you're doing this, so you can do the interview to the best of your ability. So if you have kind of internet issues or personal extenuating circumstances, make sure you raise this with the job employers, and they should be very accommodating of this. Now, lastly, I thought I'd just quickly speak on, from my personal experience in the civil service, how there's kind of more than one route in to your job. So I'm on a grad scheme, but it's really not the be all and end all. Most of the people I work with kind of applied directly to roles. And obviously this isn't the same for everyone. But I think my point is just there's not one route into your kind of desired career. So make sure you do your research, look at the potential other options in. Yeah, so basically just doing the research behind your job. And yeah, good luck with any applications. And I'll pass on back to Mark. Thanks.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you both of you. That is really interesting to hear about your experiences and what you're doing, and the kind of, and what you've both said about, you know, you've got to different roles, but actually you've both had to get through obstacles and rejections in order to get there. One of the things that stood out for me actually was, so we employ students at Newcastle University Careers, but we also employ a lot of new grads come in and work with us. And I can't resist, but you know, I have to ask, when graduates join, have you used the career service in your university before? And quite often people say no, but I wish I had, because I didn't know how much you've got to offer. And you know, I never mind. Well, I mean, obviously a lot of our work is to try and get students to use the career service, but I never mind graduates saying actually I didn't, because people have got things that they're involved with. So I think probably the same when you worked in the career service, you know, just come in and ask. Don't hold back because you feel you shouldn't come and ask or whatever. So the other thing actually that you said, Grace, as well, was looking at people on LinkedIn who've got really celebratory jobs. When my daughters graduated, one of them in particular, I said to her, don't look at Instagram, because what you see there are the students who are celebrating. What you don't see are those who are kind of muddling along and haven't got what they want. And I see you not, well, it felt like good advice. Obviously I don't use Instagram myself, but she kept saying, oh, I've seen so-and-so on Instagram. I'm saying, well, don't look at it, because you're just seeing a small proportion of grads who've got a happy job. Well, look, thank you so much, both of you, for speaking. I really appreciate you taking time today. Good luck with your futures, and thanks for sharing your advice today. Really, really helpful. Nice to meet you both. So,
Thank you.
So I think now we're just on a few concluding comments, if that's okay. I hope you found today interesting and useful. I just want to say thank you to all the speakers who've contributed to the event. Really good advice, really good insight into different employers. As I said after the Deloitte's presentation, you know, the schemes that often are very visible in career services really are for, you know, that it's about 1 in 10 grads will go into those kind of schemes. A lot of other grads will work in different organizations, and so, you know, just measure, you know, you'll all have your ways of measuring your success, but it's about what makes you happy, what makes you get up in the morning, whether you feel you're on the right track, whether you're doing something that you can see, you know, where that's heading, and that will differ for all of you. One thing we haven't really talked about today is starting your own business, and that is an area that universities can support you with. So every year there are a number of grads who decide that actually they want to work for themselves, and so my advice to you would be, if you are thinking about, oh, actually I'm interested in starting my own business, talk to your career service, and they will either provide that support themselves, or they'll be able to refer you somewhere else in the university to get that advice. But that is an option that many graduates decide that they are interested in and want to take up. As a graduate, it can be easy to feel that you're on your own, and I hope you've got a feel that the National Career Service, I mean, Stephen talked early on about advice that's available through the National Career Service, and hopefully and Jonathan, and hopefully it's come up throughout, you know, your university career service is there to help you as well. So hopefully you won't feel on your own, and just reach out. And it is really easy now through the kind of online advice that people give to reach out to the career service. I talked a bit about my, you know, just with Grace there, just talking about my daughter looking at Instagram. I mean, I've seen very recently, 2 of my daughters went to university. One is in a job that it took her a while, but she's in a job that she really likes, and she'll talk to me about how's this going to progress and where might it go. But my other daughter, and it was something that Dominique talked about when she was doing her presentation, one of my daughters is in an organisation that she likes, and I would say she's probably in a job that suits her for now, but is looking at where that might progress. So I suppose one of the things that's come across today is it's not about making a decision for life. You're making a decision that will help you get to the next stage. And you might find that you like where you move into, you might find you don't, but whatever you apply for, you're doing this as a kind of next step, and hopefully you'll progress from there. So we are going to write to you after today's event. We'll share with you the contact details of where to get advice. I just want to say good luck in whatever you choose to do next. I want to thank you for taking time to join us for today's webinar. I hope you have found it useful. I want to thank all of our speakers who've given their time to offer their advice. And I also want to say a big thank you to Julia and George at the National Career Service who have organised today's event, and we haven't seen them, but they've been behind the scenes making sure that all the speakers get to speak at the right time, and all of the slides have been presented. So huge thanks to you, Julia, and to you, George. So I think that is, I'm just going to check if there's another question. There's a question about LinkedIn Premium. And a kind of answer around there. Okay, oh, and thank you for posting that. So look, good luck. There's lots of sources of help. Reach out, talk to people, and get the support to go on your next step. And thank you so much for attending today.